I thought that maybe the meaning of my life is to stay on top of my temper. That's my quest. My quest is to be there and to make sure that shit doesn't get out of control.
They feel like, yeah, this is necessary to kind of make us better. Isn't this what all the time what this religious group will tell you? Like, join us and we'll tell you what's wrong with your life. If you worship such group and thinking that, oh, I found my group and what they're saying is always right, well, you're just a chump, right?
It's not worth for you to freak out. It's not worth of you losing your peace of mind, because your only problem is that you're gonna die. Next to that, you don't have any problems. And you're gonna die anyway. We're the top dog in whatever we've been able to observe, at least on this planet, right? We've got that. But then reality could easily be that we're just ants on somebody's backyard. And it would be the worst thing to find out, dude.
Where these yogis are kind of realize is just the fact that the ego is all this self-referential, what they call that, the default
mode network, yeah.
Yeah, default mode network. So this that kind of, you could say is self-awareness, but it really is just self-criticism, right? So it's kind of like you're just being too neurotic about yourself. You're constantly criticizing your own actions, your own, like, oh, what if this happened? What if that happened? And that hypothetical is what kind of kept people enslaved to their own kind of, whether or not it is a legitimate criticism. Most of the time, that part of the ego would just basically blow that out of proportion, and you were just constantly being worried. You're constantly worried about, oh, what will happen if this scenarios? How the hell will you know, right? And this is what I learned, because I remember before I started doing my own thing, it was just that. Anytime I was stuck at the job, it was really just, well, what other job can I do? The economy is bad. If I lose this job, then, oh, damn, I will probably be, jobless for a long time. And that, it's a fear, right? You fear, like, oh, the unknown, like what if, but this is what plagues most people from their true potential, is because they are just afraid. They're like, oh, the hypothetical thing is really just stopping you. But the thing is, they don't exist unless it really happens, right? Because you don't know what will happen. And only after you go out there and find out, then you're, okay, this is what happened. And then you just find a solution to the problem that happens. So it's just nothing to worry about. There's nothing to...
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I'm so interested in all these spiritual traditions, because it's definitely a big part of the equation is that you don't spend your time or attention in ruminating about all this stuff. By you creating all these scenarios that have nothing to do with anything, it's a waste of time. It's counterintuitive. That's why most of the advice is just leading you back to the present. And, just don't think out these problems for yourself, because reality is like really as much as you thinking about it, So if you think, like, your perspective defines everything, like with what's coming up for me, one perspective is that, like, oh, I'm going to spend all this money. But the other perspective is like, well, who cares? That's what money is for. That's money. Money is for spending and for, for having the experience and for going after what you want. So in that regard, like, it doesn't matter what costs anything, You just go after what you want. Nothing is guaranteed, and you don't really worry about anything. You just do what you can, regardless, right? And then whatever comes.
Yeah.
But you're not like freaking out every second, because, like, what's the point, dude? Something's gonna happen, so you're gonna be here, you're gonna be there, and then soon enough you're gonna die. So it's not gonna be, don't worry about it. It's all gonna be take its own course. It's not gonna be whatever you think or plan it is, but that's fine.
But see, that's the problem that people suffer through, because their ego has such a dominant control over them that they not just they self-criticize, but the fact that all of what ego does is all about itself, right? The idea that it's all about, because when you do self-criticism, you're criticizing your own kind of this way of being. So, oh, am I achieving enough? Am I failing this and that? Like, that's self-criticism, sure, and sometimes that can be good, but overall, you're still concerned with yourself. And the ego is
Hmm.
concerned with everything about the self, even despite the fact, like as we mentioned here, the fact that one day this will not be there at all. But you, the you in the, the I in yourself, it still live as if like you're gonna live forever, right? It's like I need
Yeah.
to maintain this. I need to maintain this way of being in the appropriate ways. In the
Yeah, but that's the paradox, right? Because I mean, this is why, like, I do feel that both the resistance and the yearning toward, just letting go, because like I constantly vacillate between these two positions of like, okay, I need to figure everything out and I need to control everything, and I need to do like things deliberately and intentionally against like, okay, just whatever, just let go with the flow, just don't, because it feels like it's intuitively feels like it makes sense because you like, after all our analysis that we've done, you don't seem to be in control of that much, but surely still there is something that you can control. But most of the time I do find that it's just your own attitude and the state of mind. Like, dude, if it's not a problem, whatever happens, like whatever issue that you're encountering, is not worth for you to freak out. It's not worth of you losing your peace of mind because your only problem is that you're gonna die. Next to that, you don't have any problems. And you're gonna die anyway. So it means that there's like it doesn't it doesn't really matter much, You don't need to freak out about anything. Like I really do come closer and closer to that insight that just maintaining that peace, like figuring out your own strategy for that is the only thing really that you need to do in life. At least that's what I figured out for myself. Because, and like even this move that I'm doing right now, dude, it all happened pretty seamlessly. Like I didn't think about it much. I did not, spend sleepless nights deliberating about anything. It's like, okay, doing this, apply here, go move there, book here, pay this. That's it. Like, I didn't really think about it much because, like,
yeah,
this is what's happening. This is what we're doing. Cool. Let's go.
that's also what happened to me as well. When I first decided to move, it was just like, yep. Did I
Yeah.
consider all the ramifications? No.
Just the
It was
time
just
comes
like,
and then you're like, yeah, I'm ready to go. That's good.
and it worked out, right? Because I figured out all the problem, right? It wasn't like, oh, if I start thinking, because if I do think back, it's like there was a lot of like a gamble, right?
Yeah.
And you can think, oh, that was scary. The fact it turned out well, this was like you're lucky, but that's life. You don't know what will happen, right? For sure, one could say, oh, that's such a gamble. You didn't even have that thing locked down and you just moved. And then, like, what will happen if this? Sure. But this is the thing, right? It kind of led up to that because I was accustomed to work with the unknown, at least as far as what the job entails, because it's always that, right? Doing my job, you never know what happened. During the job, it's like, okay, you do the moving, right? You talk to the client, they book the thing, and then suddenly the elevator stopped working. Okay, what are you gonna do? You're gonna have to solve the problem. You didn't know that was gonna happen, and that screwed up your next job, and then you have to deal with that because of the time delay and this, like, all kinds of stuff happens, right? And I guess I got used to that. It's like, yeah, I don't care. I'll find a solution to whatever. It didn't kill me, right? If I allowed the problem to kind of fester, it'd be like, imagine some guys would be like that. They're just gonna blow up. It's like when they encounter the problem, it's like, fuck this, right? And then all kinds of like internal sort of like, oh, this is gonna screw it up and this is fucked up and this and that. Like, why would you even go through that? Because you eventually you still have to go find a solution to the problem for the day, right?
Yeah.
So as I was doing this job for a while, a move across Canada wasn't something that I would be like. This is like as with anything, as with any move, right? You set a target, you think this is what's gonna happen, but there might be a case where it's never gonna be that way. I don't even think too much about it, and I just did it. Perhaps I wasn't even thinking much. It was just like, yep, feels like I wanted to make a change, and I just did it. I just like didn't even care if what will happen, and then, turn out all right. If not, if anything, it's probably turn out better because I feel better. I was just didn't want to live in that city anymore. It's just that's kind of how it was. And I even though I did kind of feel bad as well because it's like, well, I'm be leaving my friend, like, what does that kind of put me? Am I like a bad friend, for just so selfish, thinking about himself, and he just kind of up and left and stuff like, yeah. But
Yeah, yeah, that was. But then, like, you can't. Yeah, you can't foresee the effects of all your actions either. You can only see so far ahead, right? And if you have enough of an impulse to, yeah, I feel like this is the next move. That's all you can do, you know. This is why, like these days, yeah, I don't concentrate on thinking through stuff much because I just don't even see a way to do that, you know. Whether it's like maybe to some people it's much more clear. Like this is where like you can't help how you make decisions, you know, how you think and what you plan and how you strategize. Some of it's gotta involve how much intelligence and stuff you have in foresight, but it's not like you can do much about it, right? It's like I like this point by Alan Watts that he says that the self-improvement project, it doesn't make any sense because the self that is looking at the improvement is trying to do the improvement. Doesn't work. It's like trying to pull yourself out of a swamp by your hair. That's not a thing. You know, it doesn't make sense. So I approach it like these days from this standpoint that like, yeah, you're not able to think through that much. That's why I'm also getting less and less surprised by the fact that there are just a lot of problems everywhere in the human world, just in regular bureaucracy and regular systems, you know, just stuff working. There's just actually a lot of issues. Like a lot of people are making mistakes all over the place, and that seems to be the norm. Like I was renting that container from U-Haul right today, and the whole process seemed to be so inefficient because like when I went to the place, I already have a reservation. I already paid the fee for the container. Like I'm showing up there, I'm waiting like a bunch of minutes in the line, and then when I get served, like I say, like, yeah, this is my reservation, this is my last name. And for some reason, instead of just saying like, okay, everything's good, here's your trailer, let's go, they spent like 15 minutes trying to like write me down my address and name and phone number with a pen. But I already bought everything online. It's all done. Like it's all in your database. And it's just all this like, I don't know what's happening, right? Like all you have to
yeah,
do is just give me the trailer
search it up.
and that's it, right? It's all in the computer, but the person is sitting there like, okay, let's see what's happening. It's like, dude, nothing is happening. This is my number. It's all paid. It's all booked. They tried to charge me again. They're like, okay, here you go, pay, pay. I'm like, I already
I already
paid.
paid.
You know, and it's all this just going through whatever they're not aware of or whatever, right? Just dealing with that is so funny. But then, like at this point, like I don't get mad anymore. I'm like, yep, this is just
This is how it is.
that's what it looks like for whatever reason, right? Because that reason is out of your hands, right? That just seems to be what's happening. You can't summon a genie and just to say like, hey, give me a smart person who can figure everything out right away. That's the kind of person that you're dealing with. There's nothing for you to do about it, right? You can't yell at them. You can't make them smarter in any way. You can't do that job for them. You just have to wait it out.
It's just
Just just write it out. That's the
it,
only choice you have.
it's bad system because they never trained them in the correct way. Because if they
Like
were trained,
something's not
yeah,
working,
because if
right?
they're trained, they will go according to protocol, and they would just okay, yeah, this guy pre-registered, prepaid. Okay, enter the
Yeah,
serial number, the reference number. There you go. That's it.
yeah,
Done. You know, they were
yeah.
probably just I don't know. Didn't train. They were trained poorly. They're just like, oh, let me take this down,
But
and
I mean, by all levels of analysis, like I can't see where you would get lost in that process, because when that customer comes to you, you'll see like, okay, yeah, they paid, everything is good, like it's all there. So the only problem is that that person somehow they're not seeing it, they're not aware of it. Something is up with them, right? Like, but that's not a complex operation. You should be able to read like a couple of pieces of information off the screen and just,
so
process it. So it's,
yeah, imagine a process that's much more complex, the amount of coordination that's needed, right?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why like some of the jobs in tech, they're so freaking complex because you have to keep so much stuff in your mind. It's like thousands bits of information and it's definitely taxing. So yeah, there's a reason some of these jobs pay more than others, but damn, they're taxing. They're just unpleasant to
Yeah,
do
I
because
was
like it forces you to process that much information. And on that last job, that was like I was feeling it. I was like, I feel like because they are getting older too, right? I'm feeling like I'm changing. I get older too. I feel it. And I'm like, man, I can't even process that much information in a unit of time because it's like the demands are high. So on some of the meetings in my last job, I would feel it like, oh my God, they're talking about too much information for me to process in real time. And I would feel the stress. I was like, fuck. Like I already have to answer to the next thing that they said, but I still haven't processed like and took notes for the previous information. So you ended up facing with a situation where there's just like it's overwhelming, right? And you're sitting there like, well, shit, this is like extremely stressful because you have the pressure to keep up with that flow information, but there's literally some kind of physical limit. And you're like, well, kind of can't do it like as effectively as it ideally,
you know,
would need it be.
sometimes I try to read certain books that are basically kind of beyond me.
Right.
Like I'm curious about the thing, but when they actually start talking about the nitty-gritty,
Yeah.
I'm like
Yeah.
rereading it. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to. I was like, and then you realize, oh, I'm just dumb. I'm not smart
Yeah.
enough for this. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't get it. How? How is it that I can't
Essentially,
understand
you
what they're
have
saying?
to be learning at this like at the really high speed for those things because they would like write about a bunch of things that are new to you, and you would have to disassemble each thing, integrate it into your own knowledge, and go to the next thing, and like keep going. But that's like you can't keep going infinitely, right? There is a certain rate of how well you can do it, how many things you can learn, right? How many concepts you can hold in your mind, all of that, and that's a very real capacity and limit. Like I've encountered that as well in some of the books, like some of the philosophical books I've read. I've encountered that for the most part, I'm okay. Like I can at least track, but sometimes, yeah, it does get like way too esoteric. And at those moments, it makes me think like, what is the point of understanding all of this shit? Like sometimes I do get to that point because all that analytical mind seems to be doing is, yeah, it's just dissecting, right? But all you get is that, yeah, this thing does this, and this thing does this, and this thing does this. But the question is, why do I need to know that? Like, what am I going to do with that information? And I'm encountering that more and more because if I ask myself, like, why I need to know about that, is the answer would be like, well, I should be able to use it somehow to like my advantage or something,
But you
right?
never use it.
But not really, right? Like before when I was younger, I would used to like learn stuff, just random stuff that I would think, oh, that's a cool thing to learn. That's how I picked up a course on logic, course on economics, course on songwriting, but I never got to use any of that shit. Not really, because it's so specialized that you would need to use it in a specific job. But for my personal life, I never used it because I don't know. It would require you to still figure out how to use it and plug it into your own system. That's why, for me, like I ended up capping my learning at the rate of, okay, am I willing to make this a habit, which I consciously implement into my life and do like on a regular basis? That's what it came down to because that's the only thing that makes sense. But even with that, you don't have that much time in your life to be doing stuff.
No.
It's most like your routines around like your morning routine, maybe evening routine, but you don't have that much time outside, right? For everything else that you have to do, like fucking 7, 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of work, it's not much time left. Besides that, it's just like, hygiene you do in the morning and evening. That's your ritual time. And a bunch of that outside of time is like maintenance, buying produce, and cooking. It takes most of your time. You don't really have that much time to like learn this and that. Like at most these days, I've been sticking with the Duolingo thing because I like, currently I'm just doing chess on there. I'm not even doing languages anymore. But even the languages that I tried to learn from there, I never used it. Not really.
Not in that way. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
because
need.
you can't use it, you can't learn it to that extent, you
No,
know?
you can't practice it. That's the problem.
Not really. Like I know a few phrases in French I can say, but as soon as you try using it with like real people, it doesn't freaking go anywhere because
Yeah.
the processing for real-time conversation is so freaking intense that the fact that you know a few phrases in French and not, it's a different skill.
Yeah, because the native speaker will not need to go through that. 'Cause they automatically
Yeah,
register, right? When you
yeah,
hear your own language, you just picked up what they're saying.
yeah.
But a new learner would just be, okay, with that word, what does that mean? Oh, okay, that means that. And
It's
then,
so freaking difficult. And to train that, you would need to go beyond just using an app for a few minutes a day. You would need to hire a tutor. You would
talk to
need to
real
practice.
people.
Yeah, even if you just try to go and take the least expensive approach, it takes so much time and dedication to train that I don't feel like I have that much
It,
capacity in my
but
mind, you know?
it is true that you are what you learn, because that just means that a human being who hasn't learned anything, you will be, well, people will call that i-
Yeah,
illiterate.
because
But
you need to use your faculties, right?
right,
That's why I'm trying
so
to stay on top of
so
things.
that's the relationship that's tricky with knowledge, because you certainly can't live without it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know nothing, even your likelihood of survival just goes down, because you see how many dumb things people do and they get themselves killed because they just don't even have basic sense or basic knowledge about the world.
Yeah.
So that is a problem, right? But conversely, is also true with what you're saying. Sometimes that level of knowledge, well, what are you going to do with it, right? Beyond a
Yeah,
certain
yeah,
level,
yeah.
it's like, would you be willing to spend your whole life learning about something? Like, unless that's your passion, sure, then maybe that makes sense. But even some of that is not applicable in any shape or form. It's just a whole bunch of knowledge about a certain subject, right? Like if your job dependent on it, sure, that can be utilized. But if you just learn it for the sake of it, then it's like, well, it's just a whole
Yeah,
bunch of things that you're not gonna use.
it's useless. It's a waste of time because I've taken all these courses and I've learned this stuff, but I never ended up using all of it. So it's technically is a waste of time because yeah, maybe I got to exercise my faculties a little bit and I got some of it knowledge, like it's somewhere down there, down deep, and like could probably revive it for a lot of these things if I had to actually use it, right? If I had to actually do it for something. But in reality, you can't do that much at the same time. That's why, yeah, eventually with the time, I just landed on, okay, just do stuff that you actually want to do long term instead of learning something random that has nothing to do with anything. So the learning has to supply some actual goal that you're moving to. Essentially, you learn along the way, right?
Yeah.
You learn by doing the actual thing. This is why, yeah, I really distance from that because it was also a kind of addiction or something, right? For me, it was. I was like, I'm gonna learn this stuff. This cool. This sounds like useful. This sounds practical. But like, no, if you don't actually use it, it's not doing anything. But it's kind of a paradox because some of these skills are more soft. Some of these skills are more universal. Like, there's for example there are decision making skills. Ideally, there are better ways to be a better decision maker, but again, it's hard for me to envision that path where you're picking up these skills and you are deliberately consciously using it in your everyday life. You know, it doesn't work like that. When you're faced with when with the
Yeah.
situation, it's not like you're going to a backlog of decision making protocols.
And
Fucking
just
do this shit,
pick it
right?
up and
You just use your regular thinking and reasoning.
because
That's why like some of these soft skills, like I don't even understand how they're supposed to develop.
hmm, I think most people go by heuristics, right? Rule of thumbs, right? Like, it's an operating procedure that is, I think the official definition of heuristic is really just a rule of thumb type of processing that is under the situation that there is no optimal solution. Then this is where heuristic comes in. Like, you would go by feel, by experience, by some sort of like, so it's
Well,
not.
yeah, that's what I'm doing right now when I'm playing chess, because the whole process for me became it's a struggle between using the heuristic and thinking through the
The move.
situation in enough
Yeah.
detail. because you're supposed to do both, right? Because in a chess match, you're playing against time. So you can't really sit and think about every move like for 20 minutes. It's not going to work. If you run out of time, you lose. So it's paradox, because then your job is to find this middle ground between a heuristic and actual detailed thinking through of like all the risks and benefits of making the move. And I find it's fascinating, like trying to find that balance, because it's impossible. It's like you see your hand reaching towards a piece and move it in a certain thing, and like, wait a second,
is that the best decision?
why am I doing it? Is this because surely because there are good moves and bad moves, right? You can make a bad move in terms of you could have made a better move. And knowing what's the best move, it's so freaking difficult in a proper amount of time.
Because I feel like when I try to play chess, I'm paralyzed because like I can't make a decision, because every decision have a knock-on effect. It's like, do I do this or do I do that? Or like I couldn't even figure out how to even.
And I think like this is like, I think you do have that problem in general, because you're trying to consider like an ideal outcome, but it's never possible.
Never gonna be,
It's never possible. And oftentimes you would be, left in paralysis, or you would be stuck in that thinking process of like, oh, how to achieve that process. But the more and more like in life, I do realize that you can't do it. You can only kind of trust your gut, right? And then hope for the best and give it your best, right? But you can't, you should leave all the expectation out the door, because nothing is guaranteed. And you shouldn't overthink it, because regardless of what you're going to do, reality is going to do something of its own accord, right? Because there's that many agents and that many variables that you won't be able to figure all of that out.
There is a new movie that's like a martial art movie. I think have a lot of good reviews. I forgot the name. What's the name? It was just a lot of international cast. It was a recent one. Yeah, one recent one. So the guy was actually a protege of Jet Li. So now he's all grown up as an adult, because he was a kid that used to film with Jet Li, and he's kind of a martial artist of his own. And then he just did this movie, and they have a whole bunch of like a lot of martial artists from all over the world. Like they're really good. And I start seeing some of those training rails that they went through, and it was just fascinating how they train. A lot of it is design. Like they would have a choreographer to design the fights, like what they want to achieve.
Right.
But when you see them train, like they will actually rehearse. They will rehearse all the moves in the scene, and it was so fluid, and like there is no thinking. These guys are just doing it by heuristic. Like they just kind of like they have a general sense, right? I can pick up that they have a general sense of how they want the fight to go.
Yeah.
But the moves are not. They're like to me anyway. It feels like they had a feel for it. They're like they have enough skills. Yes. They've done enough fighting. They know like when an opponent does this, usually you have a few ways to kind of deal with it. Yeah. And they will play with that. And it was just so fascinating, because it feels like, wow, that's so smooth. They're just like doing it like that. But then if it's like thinking to myself, like, how would I even do that? It's like, well, you got to train your muscles.
Yes.
You have to do this enough time, because it's not easy. You see them do it, but they've been doing it for years, right? Imagine you don't know it, and you're like, what do I do? If a guy does this to me, like, I don't even know how would you even, this is what's fascinating me with martial art films, because like, they're so fast, and like, they can just, basically disarm an opponent just that fast. It's like, but there is a mechanic that goes with it. Right, the mechanism is there, biomechanics. Stuff. But you play with it enough that you just get a sense. This is the same way as like how in those samurai stories, or kind of like from Musashi or whatever. Like the guy is so good because he just can't feel the encounter, right? How it will go and how he will do it. So somebody can get so good at it that they don't even think. They just don't think about anything about it. They just go in, and they can see, they can just basically gauge the opponent right then and there, and they will already see how they want to go about it, and they already win. They already have won, because they can you will say it's just a feeling, but like really that's just kind of maybe it's because of if you're training enough, these things can be telegraphed. Like you would just even get a sense how things will go,
Yeah.
right? So is that training? And this is probably same with chess. Like all these top of the line players, like the way they think is there got to be some kind of commonality to it, even though everybody have a strategy, have a
Yeah,
different way to go about it.
this
But
is where the sports are really interesting, both the physical and the mental, because they involve the individual person's biology, right? Because if you're a fighter, there is such a thing as a fighting IQ, but then there's so many other variables at play, such as your actual fitness level, your actual hand-eye coordination, and fighting IQ itself. It's a combination of things because it's a both like intelligence for sure, because you have to be processing information in real time
yeah,
in physical reality, seeing
that's
and picking up so much stuff. Like imagine how much information is in like reading human body, right? Momentum, position, inertia, where the mass is going, how the body is moving, the mechanics of it. To read all of that in real time and seeing the opening, it's no different than in chess, like you're seeing the opening, you're seeing this is what's going to happen, and using your own intelligence, you are able to like put your own plans in action and modify reality. In that sense, like all the sports are the same, but the different faculties and how they work is crazy, because some of the fighters you see that the difference is so stark. Some of the fighters are so good that you like, it's magic. Like you don't know what's happening, like how they are doing it. But they're that fast, they're that precise, and they're that powerful. It's the combination of all the things. And then chess, like, because I've been watching some clips and stuff. Yeah, like because anything is a craft. Like you can dedicate your life to mastering any craft and you will not reach the end ever, right? But some of these people, they're so good because they're training everything related to the craft. They're memorizing games, they're playing the games blind, which means they're holding the whole game in their mind. Imagine, dude, how? How are you gonna
I can't
keep
do that
the
at all.
game
No way.
mentally? There are people who do that who are like, no problem.
I think that I'm not smart enough for that kind of thing. Where I'm just too dumb. Like I would
Yeah.
not be able to, even if I try to train myself to kind of see in my mind the moves. I can't. It just doesn't work that way for me.
Yeah, it just falls apart.
It won't happen. It's just no
Yeah.
matter how hard I would try, it's just like it doesn't work. I
Yeah.
can't
I mean, I'm
visualize it.
sure all of this is doable, but like you have to work on it all the time. You have to, if you're not doing it, you're not doing it. I
So
mean, this is what was it for me, like when I was playing guitar, the height of when I was composing a lot of my tracks. The tricky part is that if you want to remember how to play them, you have to play them all the time.
yeah,
Because right now, like, I
you,
don't
you
remember none of
forgot,
them. I
right?
forgot
You
all of
would
them
just
because,
forget.
like, but that's a shit ton of time. Like, in
Yeah,
combination with just living life, you have to spend, like, and the more tracks you invent, the more tracks you have to
it
practice.
means
It's
your
not going to
whole
be
life have
possible.
to be involved,
Yeah.
evolving that, right?
Yeah.
Revolve around that. Like you can't do it. You had to be crazy about music
Yeah.
for that to be a thing, because otherwise you will not be able to do all that, right?
Yeah.
You can't just dabble. Hey, I just dabble in music a little bit, like
No, yeah, you won't be able to reach any milestones. This is why, like, the most I was able to do is that I would get, when I was composing tracks, I would just get inspired, but then I would lead it to some kind of completion where it's like, I would make it a track. And then I would spend time perfecting it, where it's like more or less I can play it like okay, where it's not horrible. And then I would just rush to record it just so I can capture though that
right.
I made this, right? I made this.
Otherwise,
But the quality of it is like whatever, right? And right now I have a bunch of these tracks that I did record, I did put up online in whatever form, but I can't play them anymore. Like it would be a project for me to
to relearn
listen
it.
to the recording and see, like, remember how to play it, but it will take enormous amount of time and effort. And like you can't do all of that at all. You can't do all of these
I
things
I
at
just
all
think that
times.
when we're old enough as people, I think you just have to find out, or at least you should have a sense about yourself that you try to find what kind of mind you have, because everybody have
Hmm.
a talent, something, right? And I think obviously the earlier you can find it, the better. But a lot of times people search their whole life, right? Because nobody knows exactly what they're capable of or what
Yeah.
they're, but we know for sure that there's certain things that you are good at or you feel like you're good at it, and other things that you are not. So I guess part of living is to find that out as soon as you can and just go into it, kind of full spec, right? Spec all into that if once you find that. Because there's no reason to try to be good at everything because you can't, right? It's like all these people who are master at their thing, somehow they found that thing to be their thing because they know they're good at it, right? At a certain point, they're like, okay, I'm really good at this thing. So I'm going to spec right
Yeah.
into this, forget all the other stuff because it would be fruitless, pointless for a person trying to do something that they're not good at. Like imagine if you just constantly just keep doing the thing, but you're not achieving anything. Like
Yeah.
other people can just achieve it so easily and you just can't. That just means you can't. At that thing you're not good at. There got to be something else
For sure.
that you can. And the point would be to just give up on the stuff that you're not good at and try to just spend more time on the stuff that you're good at. Because otherwise, you'll be wasting your time because you can never compete to the guy who are just naturally
Yeah.
born to be good
It
at that
also
thing that
does
you.
depend on what you want, right? Like
Yeah,
I am kind of like that with music. I realize that yeah, I don't have what it takes to just make all these hits, that other talented professional musicians do, but I still enjoy the process, so I did it to that extent that I liked. And that's fine as well, but it's still like the only thing you can do is try it and
yeah. Because it is a
see if
hard
it
thing to
works.
gauge, right? Because
Yeah.
who to say that you're not good at it? If you don't try, you don't know. But then when you do try, I suppose you do have a feel for it, right? Some people
Yeah.
are just pick up something so fast, they're like, okay, this is easy. But for other people, they're like, this is hard, right?
Yeah.
There's so many things like, we can all imagine somebody tell you what they do. They're like, how do you do it? Well, they just do it, right? You couldn't imagine how it will work, but then that's their life. They will do that as if it's just
Yeah.
like nothing, you know? But how does that work? It's just the brain, somehow that person's brain is wired that way and they just,
Yeah, it makes sense to them, but or it was the biggest thing is that it should be easy enough for you to learn it. But even that is like how do you determine what's easy enough or what's not easy enough? Like I remember when I was playing guitar, even though I played it for a while, but like there's never a shortage of the next thing that you can learn in anything, right? Whether it's sports or whatever, there's always the next technique, there's always another maneuver, there's always a new stuff that you can invent yourself as well. So you're never really done, right? But picking it up and learning it and figuring it out is always work. Like I remember when I was learning on the guitar, on the electric guitar, how to play a certain sound to extract from a guitar. I think it's called a natural harmonic or something. But like you're supposed to pluck an open string and then gently touch a string on a certain fret, but like not pull it down towards the fretboard completely, but like gently touch it and sync it with plucking the string. Like it's such a fine movement that you have to master. Like I remember the first time I encountered it, I trying to do it, it was impossible. I was like, how do you do it? And there was no way. The only way to do it was just trying it over and over again for a really long time. And eventually it started like, okay, it kind of like seems like I'm able to do it sometimes, but still I was never able to do it like consistently. Bow, bow. But a professional musician, he can do it on a dime and it will be perfect every time. But that's like such a fine motor skill and precision and attention every time that I was never able to get to that level, where it's like fully mastered.
that just made me think that a lot of times we are really restricted by essentially your abilities, right? By your
Yeah,
physical,
it's just not there.
mental.
If it's not there, then
If
you're
you
done.
can't do it, then you cannot achieve certain things in the real world. So this
Yeah.
is the amazing. You can even say this is the amazing part about. Like it's fascinating, right? That the human body can do so much, but it's like your reality is so based on the ability of your learning, how you can learn, how you can move.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
like
you can see that for some other people, it's like no
it's
problem.
not.
They
Yeah, they can do
somehow,
amazing things that like
yeah,
you can't even imagine doing it because it's just you won't be
like they
able to
were able
without
to bring it
training.
up to that level, and it's like it just doesn't seem like it's that much of a struggle to them.
Yeah.
They just it's much more effortless to them. Definitely seen that.
So sometimes, yeah, it's crazy to think about that. And sometimes, it's like you will wake up and you realize, oh, life is kind of like everybody's just experimenting, There's like,
Yeah,
it's because every day people live very differently, but at some point, they all kind of think to themselves, like, oh, wow, this is how it is. This is like, it's a weird experience
yeah.
about living. It's like you wake up, it's like, oh, okay, we're back here again. And I had to figure it out. What am I doing? How am I doing this? Is this working? Is this not working?
Yeah.
It's like this is this is how it feel to me like when they say life is a trip, right? It's like, yeah, it's like this is something out of what is this? As it's like because this is why people say life is a dream and yeah, it all makes sense, but it's true. It's like I didn't ask for this, but I have all this, right? I have all these movements, these feelings, these mental states, and whatever else. And you try to think, you try to figure it out, you try to make sense of it all. And this is why it's so it's confusing because everybody's dealing with this, right? And everybody's response is different. Everybody's the conclusion that they have is different, right? And we talk to people, we interact with other people and try to get a sense of what they feel about it. But at the end of the day, it's just like, well, everybody's saying all kinds of things, all
Yeah.
different type of stuff. And then you learn more and more about, oh, this is kind of like how things are, the interactions, and the more knowledge you gain, the more you understand, okay, there are certain things that happens in the world. Happens in a certain way. And sometimes it is fascinating learning about this. Like for me, part of it is I don't know why I'm just kind of fascinated by economy, even though
Hmm.
I'm not a numbers person. But I keep finding myself looking at these videos explaining about economy, how things work, and like half of it I don't even understand because when they do
Right.
go into the numbers and stuff, I'm like, well, what is that? But then I was maybe something about me just trying to find out what is going on. Like, why is this thing work this way? And in this quantity of this kind of, labor pool, and then you have this kind of, production and things and that kind of, it's a very complex subject matter. Like I can see how that it will be a field of study because it's just so complex, right? Because even same thing with the stock market. Yeah, it's like it's so complex. Like there's so many things going on. Like to figure it out, like it's a tricky thing. And it's just like the more you try to understand it, the more confused you are. It's like, wow, there's just so many interactive parts. There's certain way of looking at it. Some people have certain thoughts about it, a school of thoughts about, this aspect and that aspect, how it works. And it's just like, who do I trust? You can't. Nobody. They're just saying these things that might be true. This might be the way. This might be how the system's supposed to work. And we all constantly argue about it too. This is what comes into the whole political spectrum as well, right? It interweave
Yeah.
with that. When people are arguing, oh, this should be how the economy should work. The government should not intervene. And then other people are saying, well, no, because if you don't do that, then they're going to be these players doing whatever they want, and then there's no control. Like, all kinds of stuff. And people argue all the time. And it's just like, it's almost like the longer we live, the more it feels confusing, like the more confusing it feels, right?
I do feel that way. Yeah. Like it's getting kind of strange these days because I don't know, with our overthinking, discussions and stuff,
Yeah,
it's both helping and not helping because I feel more and more that there's not that much ground for purchase, in life for anything. Like, and it's both liberating and kind
scary.
of scary at the same time, right? Because you're like, well, that ideally you would be able to, essentially, ideally, you would be able to choose what you get to experience and how you get to experience. But that's not a
That's
thing.
not how it is.
That's not how it works, right? So it's a paradox where you have to get at peace with the fact that you're just this leaf, you being blown on the wind of existence and reality, and you meet whoever, and like the people is the biggest wild card, right? Because you can meet whoever, you know. Sometimes like a stranger approaches you and they need something from you, and you're like, what is this now? And like, what is the extent that I need to be engaged with this? You know, it's all over the place.
And you're right. People are is the wildest card because everything else, in a lot of ways you can predict, right? But human behavior is just, you just can't, right? And this is part of the, like, why we even find something like, in like movies and stuff. What is suspense? The suspense is that you don't know what will happen, right? And this is
Yeah.
how they create like, like especially horror movies. Like, part of it is like they trying to create that suspense, the fact that you don't know what will happen, right? That's the biggest thing that people are kind of like, ooh, drawn into, because we all know what it feels like to be afraid of what's gonna happen, the unknown and and all that. And like, it's true. Everybody has this kind of need to know, right? Like, we want to know because maybe that's part of why there's curiosity. I think part of it is that it's true that curiosity kills the cat, because like when you walk into something dangerous you don't even know, but you need to find out, well, you might as well perish because, hey, you shouldn't be doing that.
Hmm.
But in a lot of ways humans can't help it because they want certainty. They want to be like, okay, I need to know what's going on there so that I know that it's final and certain, and it's not something that's constantly gnawing at you like, oh, what's going on, I don't even know what's out there and this and that, right? So I think a lot of people are just going through life. It's almost like we all kind of suffer from this kind of manic disorder almost. It feels like that because a lot of times we will wake up, be like, I feel great. I feel confident. My ego is full. I'm in control. I can do things. I can, blah, blah, blah. Like, great. You're having a great day. But then the moment things go sideways, like, oh, I'm not controlling anything at all. Like, this is
Yeah.
crazy. I'm, you'll feel it's almost like in the human default mode. It's just that you want to feel you're in control, right? That's when the ego would be like, yes, everything is fine. I'm in control. Things are great.
Yeah. This
But
stuff is predictable.
the reality is not. So we're constantly having this back and forth, right? It's almost bipolar. Like, sometimes we feel great. We feel we are on top of the mountain. We can achieve anything we wish for. And other times it's like, well, nothing matters. Everything is fucked. And, and it's end of the world. And then we just kind of constantly go back and forth at this. And that's just kind of the interplay between kind of the reality of what's happening, which is impermanence, right? Everything is changing all the time. And us trying to come to grip with that, with the fact that we are not in control. Because the thing is,
Yeah.
unless you have a certain realized state of mind, right? You don't want it. You don't want to accept the fact that the world is impermanent, right? You want to accept a version of it, of the story where you matter, the things that you do matter, and that every decision that you do come to some sort of significance, right?
Hmm.
And I think one of the most, this is why cosmic horrors are such a beloved kind of literary kind of
Genre. Yeah.
genre, is because people, yeah, because the cosmic horror is the fact that they're just saying, well, you are so insignificant that nothing you do ever matters, right? What's scary out there
Yeah.
is that you just unknowable. The thing is they're bigger than you. There's something incomprehensible about the universe, right? There's something out there. And that's the thrill. That's the thrill of it, is like you have to realize that, oh, you're not, but in a way it's almost just saying that, oh, humans aren't shit. You ain't nothing. There's nothing that
Yeah,
you think you're
which is
great,
like
but
with the scariest and biggest disillusionment if we uncovered that, right? Because right now we're like, as far as we're concerned, we're the top G, right? We're the top dog in whatever we've been able to
yeah.
observe, at least on this planet, right? We've got that. But then reality could easily be that we're just ants on somebody's backyard. And that would be the worst thing to find out, dude. if we find out for real, like without a shadow of doubt, like, well, looks like we can be wiped out in a millisecond without ever having any say about it
Yeah.
because somebody just steps on us. That would be crazy to find out that you are that. Because
Well,
that's like most of the world is like that, right? It's just, it's,
yeah. But that's also the kind of theme that was in the original Stalker short story. Stanislav Lem, when he wrote that book, it was one of my favorite books because it's very short, but
mm,
the premise is very different than the movie the Tarkovsky made or even the game. It's very different. But from the book itself, the central theme is that humans at the Earth is so insignificant that it's just basically it's like a park for aliens. Like they come here to just have a picnic. That's why the original title is Roadside Picnic. That's the title. It's basically that. Like your Earth are so like they leave these basically garbage, but they're artifacts. Like to humans, they're artifacts, like with power, right? That's where the anomalies are generated by these things left by the alien. But to the alien, they're just like a scrap of rubbish.
yeah,
Like
it's
you
useless.
go to a park and you just litter after you eat the thing, the
Yeah,
packaging, and you just throw away and the thing and just litter and then go away. And that's basically what it is. So in that world, it's just like humans, all the stuff that you're doing, right? You're so insignificant. Aliens don't even treat you. You're not even worth. Like you're just I don't know, a nice kind of picnic, middle of the road picnic area. Just like, hey, stop here and for a snack, and then you go. You're not even worthy to be destroyed or anything. You're like,
yeah.
yeah, that's just a nice place to just stop by. That's it.
Man, that would be depressing.
It is depressing, but that's what's so brilliant about it, right?
Because even like our reaction would be so, the ego would be so like, no, will not even refuse to accept it, you know?
And these in the story they're just like these institute they would actually study these artifacts and make it such a big deal, and these things can
Mm,
actually get a lot of money when this is why stalker exists. They will go into the zone, get
right.
these things and go out and then sell them, right, for big price, right, for big amount of money. And so the whole society changed because of this, because these things are left all over the world, and then they create these zones that you can't really go in because it's dangerous to go because you can die because of random. This is what in the game, right? In the video game, you actually have a boat that you will throw to find out where the anomalies are.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
yeah.
part of the story, right? In the short story, they will do that as a way to test if this the a few steps before you is that safe to step on. They would do that, and if they hit an anomaly, then okay, that's like a
Yeah,
landmine. You can't go
that part
there.
was like, it's really perfect premise for that video game because like I've played the several video games for that. Yeah, and that's a core mechanic because like it's a fun part, especially when you're like just exploring what the game is, right? And you don't know what kind of anomalies are there.
Yeah,
Because some of them are just like, yeah, you get into it and you die right away. Because it
yeah.
just like swallows you up and then it tears you apart and stuff. And
That
before you learn that that's what it is, you're like, ah, crap, I died.
bro, when I first played that game, I wasn't even afraid to play it because it's so atmospheric. It's like I got
Yeah,
scared. It's like
yeah,
this is
it is scary.
scary. I don't want.
And then you get to these crazy ass mutants where like you can't even aim for them properly because they're so quick. It's legit scary. It's a good setup, good premise.
Yeah, but that is give it to the Soviets to write something so depressing that it's like it. Yeah, it's But yeah, that make you think. Like, yep, what if we're just that? It just
Yeah,
you're
what if something
not
like that
so
happens?
important as you think. And this also goes with the idea that humans are such full of themselves. Like there are certain things in the world that we don't really understand, right? A lot of things we think we do, but we don't. And things that we kind of give for granted, like other ways. Like in one thing that I get reminded of is just actual creatures and animals that are they're actually very smart than what we give them credit for. And I think it's really true that some of them have feelings just like us. You can even
Yeah, for
tell
sure.
some pets like they would act in a way almost very human like. And I think it goes for a lot of animals, like they are.
Yeah, yeah. You see tons of emotions. I mean, that's why there's so many popular videos on YouTube about like just cats and dogs
Yeah.
who are like The popular one is that where the owner of some dog misbehaved, and the owner is like sits down, like the three dogs in front of a camera, and like talks to them. Okay,
Yeah.
did
Who
you
did
do
it?
it? Did you do it? Did you? And the guilty dog will literally be
Yeah.
like you could visually see that
It's
they're
like a
like,
kid, right?
yeah, that they're like, it's not me. I don't know who did it, but it's not. But like, it looks like a kid who is like trying to avoid responsibility. It's hilarious, but like, how is that possible? That it's readable by a
But they
human?
understand it. They can
Yeah,
understand your language. They know what you're saying. They know what you know.
yeah.
And there was also that one that was so hilarious. It was like a lady with a husky, and she was like, and the husky was just, howling, like complaining, I guess.
Yeah,
And then it's like, say that to my face. And then the
they're
dog
very
would just
whiny.
walk in front of her and then
Yeah, it's
start,
like rah, 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 rah.
and then walk away.
Yeah. Row, row, row.
It was hilarious. It's like, yep, in your face, fine, I'll do it. Right? So they
Yeah.
got spunks, it's fun. It's like, yeah, they like people. So, and these things we give for granted. Like we think animals are dumb, right? They're not as highly evolved as us and this and that, right? But really, the more you see it, the more they have a whole ass life for themselves, right? Like I
Yeah.
was amazed by whales. Like they will actually have the whale songs, the song that they sing. It's like it is language. Like they would have accents. They will have regional accents. They will have different. They basically the way they communicate is almost like they sing popular songs. Like
Hmm.
you would recognize a pattern. It's like a popular music. They would sing this to communicate with each other. And there was this kind of they labeled as the loneliest whale in the world because the song that it sings is like nobody have ever heard. Like the
Hmm.
pattern is so different. And it just mean that I think that was the last one of his kind, I think, where he
Hmm.
doesn't have any group that he associated with. So like the way he will sing it is just like no other whale will understand him. It would just be a different frequency and notes and stuff. So it's like, yeah, like nobody's singing back the same tone as this whale. So it's like he's just the only one left. And that just goes to show me like, yeah, like it's like the world is very complex in a way that even these animals have a lot of different ways to communicate, how they have a whole system, right? Of how they interact. Like the elephants too, like they will have ways to kind of subsonic kind of communication. Like we can't hear
Hmm.
it, but they can hear like the growl or like they will communicate through that. Like so it's a whole and the way that is a very complex system, but these animals can navigate it in such a way that like they make it work. They make it like this is their heuristic. They found out about the world, how they will interact with it. And it's like they're born with it, right? Like nobody taught
Yeah.
them anything. Like they don't have like they don't sit there and learn by books, how they're supposed to have like the knowledge of all these things. They just naturally know it. And humans for how smart we are, supposedly, it's it's like we actually aren't as well adapted as animals because they can just know certain things without even having any sort of formulative way to study it or anything.
Yeah, no, animals are definitely amazing. That's why, like, I'm definitely gonna miss my cat. It's weird, man. I have a proper, like, relationship and a communication style
Mm.
with him. So ideally, I would definitely have that in my life. But I don't know. Maybe I'll get a cat or something eventually there.
Yeah,
Because it's,
that's always
yeah. Because it's pretty fun. Yeah, it's pretty fun having just some kind of interaction with a living being like that, where you're both friendly, you're both just having fun essentially.
yeah. I mean, that part is kind of I don't know. Part of me is you know me. I'm just a lazy guy. It's like when I think about it, it's like, oh, do I have to take care of a pet? It's just like I barely can take care of myself.
Well, it's not like too bad. Like with cats specifically, it's not too
Yeah, they
bad.
don't they just do
But
their own thing, but
they still have their needs. Like in terms of like ideally, like I can see like even this cat, like he has his needs just socially.
mm,
So it's not enough, like an ideal world, it's not enough that you just feed him, and
Oh
give
no, of
him water.
course.
It's
Yeah.
not enough. You do have to play with the guy. You have to pet them. You have to talk to them. You have to interact with them, because he would legit get like lonely, and he would come over, and he was like, start like, I'm bored, like play with me. He would ask like, come on, let's do something. Because like they they do sleep a lot, but like they need a lot of still engagement and stuff. So you should not get a pet if you're not going to be spending any time with it, for
Yeah.
sure.
Which is why I don't get one, because I don't want to be an abusive owner,
Yeah.
essentially. But abusive as in negligent, right? Like
Yeah.
you're just, yeah, it's definitely, it's like in any relationship, right? Because yeah, with the pet, this is still a relationship. You have to maintain it. You have to kind of, it goes both ways. You can't just be like, oh, I just have it around and what, because the interaction is, you're supposed to
Yeah, it's the
interact.
point.
You're supposed to, play with it, interact and have a, you know, relationship with it. So yeah, it's definitely, which is why I really hate these people that would just be negligent with their
Yeah.
pet when they don't even, like, why would you want a pet when you don't even take care of it, when you don't even want that relationship in the first place? But that's just me. I guess I know enough about myself, kind of, to just like, probably not a great owner. Yeah, because I'm such a loner in the way that I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I don't need any, because then it just becomes, oh, I had to take care of this relationship. Oh, maybe
Yeah.
that says something about my problem as a person then, more than anything. But yeah, maybe that's just the selfish part, I guess. It's just like, oh, you just care about yourself. You can't even bother to maintain.
Yeah. Because like, I mean, everything is work. See, it's not like you're gonna have infinite space for anything you want to do. Still have to prioritize.
Yeah, which is, again, just goes to show that, right? Like each person had to figure out exactly what make them tick, right? You try to find the best kind of optimal way to be, right? And I think in a way, a lot of people, everybody is try to do that, right? Some people would just, the basic kind of thing that people do is, find a job that's right for you, find a career, find a this, figure out the financial situation to make their life better. And then on the psychological front, the mental front is okay, yeah, find things to do to alleviate all the, I don't know, your loneliness or problems that you have. You try to find basically the optimal living condition, right? Everybody's
Yeah.
doing that by whatever measure. Some people can be doing all kinds of things. You have people who, I don't know, they're just like, you have people who can't sit down and just like go out there, and especially here in Vancouver, where a lot of people, like, as they say, as they advertise, they would climb the mountains at the early hours and then go surfing in the afternoon.
Hmm.
That, like, some people do that. They're like, "Yep, I just the outdoors kind of guy and just do all these things." They have to do it. They have to experience all these, different activities and just can't stop. Right? That's a hobby. Sure, a
That's
lot
a
of
hobby. Yeah.
different mode, different speed, different people doing different things for sure. Like it's just kind of what drives you. Because fundamentally, that's the issue we wake up with, right? You wake up, you might not be asking it every single day, but everything that you do, it leads to, what am I doing at the end of the day?
Yeah, that's the
It's,
thing. Like, you still have to figure out what to do. And for me, it's been kind of a challenge lately, because this is what I'm like, I'm not sure what is at the center of some of these experiences. Because even when you ask me, it's like, okay, what do you want to do? And out of all the things, like, if I have to come up with something, it's all those creative projects that I'm involved in now. But even then, I wish my motivation was 100% to be engaged in them, but it's not 100%. And that's the part, like, I'm trying to figure out,
I don't know
what
if
do
you
I
can.
Like, what do I want then ultimately? Like, why can't I just sit there every day and do the things that I myself determine are the things that I want to do? It's very
I
weird
think
because
that's part of the brain, you know? Like we all have this what if kind of question. Because you could be doing everything that you would want to do. And in the
Mhm.
back of your head, you're still like, what if? Right? There's something missing, right? Like I think maybe that's just how the brain will kind of like try to fill the blank, right? They're like, okay, things are going well. Even when they go well, you're like, well, there's this one thing, right? But what is that one thing? Is that possibly be just some kind of deficit in the human condition where it's just constantly just always not enough?
Mm,
When would you say is enough, right? Like we see so many examples of people who does have a lot of success in their life and yet they're still unhappy. They still kind of like, this is why like all these people who do achieve fame, it's kind of a tricky thing because a lot of them lose it. Not lose it in the sense like, oh, they, they lose it in the sense that they don't know what to do with it, or like they will as soon as that is achieved, they will still feel empty, right? You have a lot of these people who, eventually, even it led to their tragic death eventually. Like these will be people who have achieved fame and success and everything, and that seems like not enough. Something about it, and then they just continue to be discontent with, because they were already creating great stuff, and people do get applause and accolades from other people, but
yeah,
then
that
it's
that
like,
that part is strange, but like, you know what I think really is the crux for celebrities and people who are, playing at the high levels is the fact that it's not like they're just within their own system and their own thing.
mm,
They have to deal with lots of other people, and there's,
but the system
you know,
outside of that, yeah,
yeah, and the
like the
system, but these are established systems, right? And there's established, again, like established circles of power, established people with influences. There are corporation. It's not. It's no. Like the world is not going to leave you alone. The
yeah.
people are not going to leave you alone. There's more and more sharks and more little parasites who are trying to get their piece. And if you are a high performer, like a high producer type of, like, right, a proper artist, you're gonna have to deal with so many people who just want a piece of you that you're gonna have to deal with all of that, not just the thing that you like doing. Like if you just like performing, it's not gonna be, it's not like you just perform all day and that's it.
You can't have nice things.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do so much extra stuff just to be able to perform that it's gonna be very
Well,
tricky to stay grounded.
that's true because there was that whole conspiracy regarding that recent, there's this artist, Oliver Tree. He tragically died in a helicopter crash in Brazil.
That's recent?
Yeah, it just happened. When was
Oh,
it? Last month?
really?
Or
Wasn't he just on the podcast or something? Hold on.
well, it recently happened. So there was a lot of conspiracy because the thing is,
Oh, wow.
there was a TikTok that he released himself. He was talking about how he wanted to go his own way because the record label is not doing the thing that, you know,
Yeah,
like he's not basically performing the way that he wanted to. There's a meaning that he was talking about. Essentially, there's a lot of, not in so many words, 'cause some stuff he can't say, but he's essentially saying that he's not happy with the setup. They're essentially
right,
the record label is essentially controlling him in what
right.
he can do and whatever, right?
That's the thing, yeah.
But who knows, right? The conspiracy is saying that, oh, he was killed because he's not,
It's trying
he's
to
do his
rock the
own
boat.
thing, yeah, rock the boat too much or whatever. But who knows, right? But that's what the conspiracy says. But it's true that it's definitely that he's finding himself in a way where like he's not happy, he's not doing the thing that he wanted to do. And I think there must be something with it because he before he died, from what I read, like he actually got all his money in a will that I think it was uh, like going to some kind of charity, so he didn't leave any money to anybody. Like, he actually got a will, meaning that maybe he knows something.
Hmm.
I mean, he's very young, right? And
Yeah.
so the fact that he got a will so early, I don't know, maybe when you get fame, that's what the first thing you do, right? But
Yeah.
he was talking about even in his songs and stuff, like some kind of dark, and where he's kind of insinuating that something might happen to him or whatever. You know,
Hmm.
I don't know, right? I'm not. I haven't even heard of this. I mean, I know the music when once I look it up. So that famous song that he was the singer on,
I never heard
but
any of the
before I
music. I
never
just know what
heard
he
about
looks
this
like.
guy at all, right? But because of what happened here, all this conspiracy talk and stuff like that. But for sure, from what we can even what we know, even just searching online, yeah, it seems like that he was not happy with the arrangement, right? And so it's true, yeah. Like once you get enough of fame or whatever, people gonna control you. They will try to control you. They will try
Yeah.
to kind of utilize you as their way to get money, right? So yeah, it's very. I mean, it's it's hard for it to envision because we're nobody, and obviously
Right.
nobody's doing that to us, you know. But yeah, I can imagine if, let's just say, if you do achieve some kind of thing, there's gotta be lots of pressures from the
But yeah, like
outside.
that's why like a lot of experienced artists advise to some of the younger folks who are saying they discover something, they strike gold. The more seasoned artist advice would be just no, have as much freedom and independence for your creative control.
Yeah,
That's the primal, right? It doesn't matter that like, oh, maybe you'll get to have a quick million or two early on. That's not the real price. Like the real treasure is the cultivation that you'll be able to do yourself with your own freedom and creativity and creative control, which makes you successful in the first place. And if you give that away, you're kind of giving away the only reason you want to do the thing in the first place, right? So that's why you have to keep in mind the right things, right important things at the forefront of your mind, right? The idea is not just to make money, it's just to build and create based on your own rules.
yeah, exactly. Because the world is always wants something from you, and it's more like, are you willing to give it? It's always a It's almost a deal with the devil, essentially,
Yeah.
right? It's like, do you want the fame? Do you want the money? Do you want this? Well, there's a string attached, right? You have to give up something. You know, that's how the world will ask of you, right? Because somebody wants something from you, right? Once you have something valuable, right? This is what happens. And it's kind of it's definitely an interesting dilemma because most people, all of us, internally, like we do want some kind of recognition for whatever that we do, right?
Yeah.
Everybody have a impulse for that. But once you do get it, it's not it's not like as the daydreaming would indicate, right? Be like, yeah, everybody can daydream about all these things. But once you do get it, there's so many politics that involve with it. There's so many
Yeah.
things is a very complicated case of yeah, there's so many things that you don't even know the kind of dealing that happens behind closed door, especially for the bigger you are, right? Like
Oh yeah.
some of these artists, like really big ones, like you don't know their life for sure. Even
Oh
that
yeah.
is
You
a
don't know what's
really
involved.
weird existence because it's like nothing is private. There's nothing that somebody knows about you, something about you, and they probably hold against you because you can't even live your normal life and do your own thing because something
Yep.
can be with the paparazzi or whatever, like all these, like they probably, yeah, they hold against you. They will find something, find some dirt on you and saying, hey, you got to do it the way that we want it to, or, and it's all manners of that. I remember I was looking at this, they were explaining back in the past, right now is the football season with the
Yeah.
World Cup. And there was one video was just talking about in the past World Cup, there was a time in the, I guess it was the 70s when that country, Zimbabwe, was still called Zaire.
Hmm.
They had a dictator, right? So he's into football, and whole nation's into football. So the national team actually got in the World Cup, but the guy was a dictator. So he's essentially give the command like, you guys have to not lose. They have a rule, right? Basically, you cannot lose by 4 points or something
Oh,
because I'm gonna
wow.
personally execute all of you if you. if
That's
that happened.
fun.
And that was the one time I think got to the point where I think they were playing against Brazil.
Yeah.
And there was a penalty kick from the Brazilian side. And then one of the players just from Zaire, he would just charge and kick the ball in the opposite way. And people thought that was just being stupid. Like, what the fuck is he doing? Like, why is
Yeah.
he, you know? But apparently the stress got to him. Like, it's so much stress. Like, he's like, we're about, if the penalty kick gets in, we're all dead, you know?
Right.
But nobody knows that other
The
than,
real pressure. Yeah.
yeah, all the international, nobody else know about this, right? Other than the people who are in the country, they know, what the dictator wanted and all that. They will have armed guard essentially ready to go. If they lose, they will find a way to get them, essentially kill them, right?
Yeah. Jesus.
And so he basically lost his mind at that point, and then he just kind of, prematurely kicked that ball like to the opposite way. People thought he just
Wow.
lost his mind.
It's trying to play it safe. It's like playing Path of Exile on hardcore. You just need to keep it extra safe because the margin of error is minimal.
Yeah, but then eventually, I think they play. Yeah, they continue to play, and then I think they got the margin down to, they lost by 3 points. So that was within the margin. So like they didn't get to 4, and so okay, it was fine. You guys can live. It's crazy, right? But imagine there are things
Wow.
like that. You can just be a football loving guy, just want to play for your country, but
Yeah, but the
your country are
reality
saying, hey,
is.
if you lose, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
That's the level of
Why
that's the
does it
stake.
have to be like that?
Why does it have to be like that? We just love football. We want to, win for our country.
Why do you have
What's
to
the worst that could
be
happen
such
if
a
you lose? Well,
buzzkill,
you're
bro?
gonna lose your life. It's
But can we just be nice
Can
and
we
like
just play
play
games, man?
football and like yeah, why it's not that big of a deal. Man.
But that's how crazy it can go. But I don't know, man. Sometimes I'm so frustrated with living in society, and I think a lot of people do feel the same way. But
Yeah.
conversely, you also can't go without it. I mean, you are
Yeah, what else
people,
are you gonna
right?
do?
You are a person. You need to live in a society. You can't live by yourself. There's no way that you can survive. I mean, some people manage to do it, but even then, it's just a technicality. Like he's technically living by himself, hunting his own food, but he still will require certain things from other people. It's not a complete cutoff, right? So humans are social. Well, you have to be social. I mean, in matter of degrees, but no matter what, you still have to interact with people. You still live in a society. But the problem is sometimes we're so tired of this. It's like all the shenanigans that happen, and you can only be. I don't know. We all want our experience to be good, but then oftentimes, like you're saying, when even renting a trailer, there always going to be something, right? Whether that's just, I don't know, incompetency or miscommunication, some sort of thing. The reality is that is not going to be the way that you want it. So part of your heuristic is really just problem solving. Like you have to solve the problem that happens, but I will be lying if I say that, oh, everything is peachy, everything is, everything is nice, and it's not. And I think maybe partially is one has to be kind of pragmatic about it. Like you can't just be really an idealist. But I can see how idealism will also lead to great things because you kind of have to hope for things to be good. Because if you don't, then everything will be shitty. So I think that it's just hard to kind of really clamp down on human nature. I don't think anybody can really define what human nature is. I mean, you can have all kinds of answers, you know, and even the thing they will call it what, the human condition. But what is even the
Mm.
human condition? Define human condition. I
Yeah,
don't think anybody
yeah.
can define it. What
I
is
don't know
that?
what that is, right? You can name this and that, but it's just gonna be a limited observation of this situation or that situation. I don't know. Everything's still like it seems to be so arbitrary and so imprecise. This is why, like, the more and more I'm coming to the idea that like it doesn't matter what the world is and what anybody says. it's still in your best interest to pick a belief essentially, and a certain hope, and project your will towards something, but you're not expecting anything, and you're not clinging toward any specific outcome, because it's useless. So this is why, like, from that standpoint on, I do believe that our beliefs and opinions do color our reality, which means it's in your own best interest to just keep it light, chill, and positive, and that's it.
I think that's
Because
key.
everything else doesn't make sense.
Because you see, the problem is most people are in this by default mode with the ego, is that it's future looking, right? You're worrying about what happens in the future, right?
Yeah.
You worry about the integrity of this ego, the self, right? That's why people with anxiety will be like, oh, did I do that right? They'll worry about the past and future. So they're not living in the present. They will worry about the past, what they did. Is that going to affect the self, right? In some ways, or the future. Right? If I didn't do this, what will happen? Right. So it's like hypothetical running wild. For most people, I think this is what happens. Like, we worry about the future, we worry about the past, and we're not living in the present because you're too busy up here, right? You're thinking. Imagine if you do project management, you're project managing what's already is available, what already have been done, and you worry about the future, what hasn't been completed, right? I mean, you're using the present to worry about the
But
the future
even
and
then,
past.
this is my problem. This is why I can't do the project management anymore, is because I see through the pretense of managing anything.
It's not
Like,
being managed.
it doesn't fucking work, dude.
Yeah.
And I personally see it. This is why I can't even, I can't do the pretense stuff. I don't know if it's like you can do it for fun, but I find it silly, because I can't do it. Like, either I'm officially in a silly mode, but there you have to pretend that you are serious, but then, like, there is no way for you to be seriously on top of anything, because any thread you pull is just, it leads you to just chaos and randomness, and people just being people, and for this reason, like, I can't do it, dude. Like, it's gone. It's that ability for me to do project management is
I
gone.
don't know if what a percent, how much this is affected by the fact that you're Russian. I think Russian people are this straightforward kind of, you guys think way too straight, where it's like, it is what it is.
It's much
You
more
guys, the whole
simple.
thing, it's like, it is what it is. What do you want me to say? It's just,
Yeah.
if it's screwed up, it's screwed up, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what do you want me to tell you? But I think my people are very good at bullshitting. We're very good at, like,
Mhm.
pretending like, oh, everything is fine. Don't worry about it. It's just,
Yeah.
things are going as well as it could be, That's just all BS for sure. We're very good
Yeah.
at that. We're like, we're good at lying to ourselves and lying to everybody that everything is fine. But jokes aside, but yeah, it's all these pretension. It's true. Like, all these they cost energy, just like lying, right? Lying costs
Yeah.
energy. You require more resources to kind of build up that lie. And I mean, everybody have this kind of impulse to just, yeah, why can't we live truthfully? Because the truth is ugly. The truth is uncomfortable, right? And people are trying to bamboozle you this is what advertising is, right? For example, like, they will advertise you all kinds of solution to your problem that are not solution to your problem, but just make you feel good, right? You feel like, if I get this, I'll fix my problem. Again, that's catered to the ego, to the self, like, oh, I can improve on things. But these are things you can't improve on. There's nothing to improve, right? I think
Yep.
this is what the yogi have find out in terms of, like, really the human existence. There are certain things you can improve, but there are a lot of things you can't. You are just what you are, right? You just not like a product or whatever. It's not going to solve your problem, right? This is
Yeah.
people who suffer from these mental disorders, or what kind of, like, like eating disorder, for example. Yeah, like, it's a mental thing. It's not like, oh, if I have this thing, I can fix it. It's just like, you think the external factors can solve your problem, but it really is mental. It's like, if you think differently, you wouldn't even have the problem. It's only because you're so um, focus on the ego-led solutions. It's not as simple as what it tell you, because it's telling you that if you get this thing, it can be fixed. It can't be fixed. That's the dream, right? These things can be fixed by just magic pills or something that you can take to make it go away. Like, it doesn't work like that, right? Everything is connected, so there's this whole system that has to adjust. So it's not just like, oh, if I fix this, then everything will be fixed. This is why people who think that, oh, if I get jacked, I'm gonna be good. I mean, yeah, sure, certainly some
Yeah,
some
yeah,
some
yeah.
aspect of it is gonna make you feel better. But if you have a self-image problem, it's never gonna get fixed. You
Yeah.
always think that, oh, I'm inadequate. This is not working. That's not working.
Yeah,
This can be better.
that's why some of those points about things like, for example, body dysmorphia, it's like, you see, if you, this is where things like learning and wisdom are really paramount, because people spend, their lives and tons of money to like modify their bodies and like to do this and that, like, and then it comes in so many different forms, right? But like those people who are obsessed with bodybuilding to
Yeah,
the point where like they just become like these monstrous creatures at the age of 20. What are they like? What is going on in their head, dude? To to do that to their bodies and think like this is cool, this is a great
yeah.
idea.
Man, I've seen those. It's crazy. It's like their biceps are like so freaking huge. Like it's in the way. Like they can't
Yeah,
even walk normal. They're like
yeah,
this. Like,
yeah. So that's not like nothing's happening. You're not fixing the problem there. Like you're confused, right?
yeah,
You're thinking that, like, I don't even know how to explain, right? But somehow in their image and their understanding, they're like, yeah, this is what needs to happen. But then it never stops, right? Like some of these people with facial surgery, right, with the plastic surgery, they go crazy because
yeah,
they can't even see, like, the reality that they perceive has nothing to do with what other people see. Like
yeah.
they're not even aware of what they're doing to their bodies. It's that. It's you're thinking that you're doing something good while you're confused. You're literally delusional in some sense. You think it's a wrong premise, right? You think like, oh, if only I blow up my lips, I'm going to be so freaking attractive. It's going to be awesome.
Dude, I still can't. What that actress who was in The Boys, who had, clearly has plastic surgery, and it
Right.
changed her whole look. I just I couldn't even look at her face. It's like it's so
Yeah, it looks
bad.
terrible.
Like she was fine looking,
Of
like it,
course.
it was normal, right? It was, I don't know. I couldn't
Which
even.
means what? If somebody influence something
Yeah, they all have that circle of people in Hollywood. They just continue to kind of, because they all look like that, right? They
yeah.
all done the work, and then they all look like that. So it's got to be something that kind of goes into their head. Oh, they're all doing it, so I have to do it too. It's
Like
this kind of,
that's how we imagine it happens. Like they're in the circle and there's some guy who is a plastic surgeon and he just sells it to people. He's
yeah,
like, "Look, you're so gorgeous, but like, it's starting to drip a little bit here. If we only just pull it up just a little bit." And then you come in and it's like, well, it actually looks like your nose could be so, and they just upsell you. This is, I believe, how it happens, right? You literally get sold and you're like, oh, okay, you think I should do
and
my nose too? Okay, let's
and,
do that as
and
well.
that's the thing.
It's like
Also,
thoughtlessness.
it's also because they're influenced by all their circles. All these other women have
Yeah,
done it, and
yeah,
they double down on it, right? They just I did it, so you must do it too, right? This
yeah.
kind of thing, like
This is
you.
what's pretty.
This is what's considered good, but without external.
That's why
And
you need the really strong head on your shoulders and you think for yourself. Where it's like it doesn't matter what other people do. People do
yeah,
a lot of dumbass stuff,
well
no matter
this
who they are.
well, okay, this kind of goes into the other thing I want to talk about. Is I just recently learned about this. There was this German psychologist, Kurt Lewin. So
Hmm.
he escaped the Nazis in the 30s to America, and then he was a psychologist. So he kind of created this mathematical equation, because he kind of coined the term group dynamic in psychology. So he
Hmm.
studied group, essentially, so societal group, kind of how do they interact and the relationship within that. So that's his field of study. And obviously the impetus for him was because he's German, he's Jewish, so that's why he had to
Hmm.
escape Germany back in the day. But he was curious, like, okay, why did Germany gone the way it did? Because German people were very supposedly, very rational thinking, very logical, not being very emotional to get so wound up by all
Hmm.
this thing that the Nazis were doing. So he was curious about, okay, what does group dynamics says that allows people to be swayed by this movement? That was the Nazism that happened. So that was the impetus of why he wanted to study it. And then he continued on this, and then he did a study group where he would invite all these people. So the first is the equation. So the equation sounds kind of really obvious when it's explained. It's basically B stands for behavior equals the function f parenthesis p comma e. So what
Okay.
it says is behavior is the function of P person and E environment. It sounds very obvious. Like, yeah, of
Right.
course, your behavior is influenced by your own action plus the environment, right? You're influenced by this. But because he plug it into a function, a mathematical function is something that has one input and one output. So meaning that it's related. So one thing increase, the other thing there has to be an answer, right? You have one input that has to come out an output. So meaning that they are related. So if you change one quantity, another quantity must change as well. So meaning his hypothesis is kind of like, what if you kind of influence and change the P by essentially in a way suppressing it and increase the E, the environment. So by
Hmm.
creating an environment that minimizes the P, can you influence behavior in a certain way? So that was the hypothesis, and he kind of went with this with a study group where he invited all kinds of people to join this group. There are all kinds of ethnicities. There are white people, black people, Asian. All kinds of. So the the test group is very diverse. So all kinds of
Hmm.
walk of life. So they will get these people to start discussing things. So what end up happens, he just observe these people, right? And they will talk about life, about this, things like, oh, what's the trouble in your life? And people will start talking about, like things like discrimination, oh, this thing happened, that sucks, and whatever. So everybody just discussing this. And eventually he finds that the people would tend to when they talk, eventually it becomes this sort of almost like a group pressure, right? So eventually it's very interesting because sometimes this will devolve into arguments
Hmm.
of what different people agreed on different things, and they will argue and say, "Hey, you actually did that thing wrong. So why are you blaming other people for whatever?" So oftentimes they will even get almost get into a fist fight. They will just start you know, arguing and even fighting, with words, almost to a point of start fights. So he was like, "This is very curious. This is very interesting to observe. Like this thing is like, yeah, like this is kind of goes with his equation that if you change the p factor and with the environment being controlled, you can actually affect how people interact with each other." And so that was an experiment that he did, and he found that there's some correlation with how people interact in a closed setting when there was no other influence other than these people in themselves, right? That they would generate these dynamics. And then there was another guy called William Schultz. He was another psychologist, and I think he also worked with he was part of the army, so he was working with some project with the army, and he was also psychologist, so he studied these things. And eventually, before he retired, I think he actually went to California. He met these back in the day in the 70s. There were these hippie groups. So there will be all this kind of, all love, sort of enjoy, being this kind of really free living, sort of no rules, no kind of, he's very curious about it because he was
Hmm.
raised in the army. He's like, he do things very regimented. And he's like, this is an interesting way to live life. Let me join these guys and see what's going on. And he was also curious as a psychologist, like, yeah, he want to see this group dynamic. How does this affect how people interact? So essentially, he found that they would do this thing where they will have these sessions where everybody just sit in a circle and people just basically talk whatever, right?
Hmm.
And I think he kind of wanted to see what it will happen if you kind of made this into if he's kind of exert some kind of influence over this. So what they would do is he will let this group, and he would just let people talk. So basically, you have a whole bunch of people around you in the circle, and you will have one individual sit in the middle. And essentially, what happens is that he will let everybody, because they all know each other, right? They already know each other. So like the people surrounding this person would basically criticize that person. Say anything that you know about this person that's negative, like what they have not done or what their problem is and how they're supposed to be, and how, basically you can just void. There's no judgment in the way of you can say whatever to this person. Like he give permission that you can do this. Like basically, if you want to improve yourself, you let other people tell you exactly what, how they feel about you, right? And it's like, that's the whole exercise. So these people would just go at it like this, like they have a free blank check. So they're essentially just start saying all these things about this person who they think is true. Like they're not doing enough about this and this and this is their problem, blah, blah, blah. So essentially the person would just take it, like just literally listen to all these negative things about them, essentially being broken down. Some people will just can't even take it. They're like, what do you mean? That's not me. That's like, so again, it happens where they almost got into fist fights because they're just like in disagreements. Like, no, what you're saying about me isn't true. Screw you. You also didn't do blah, blah, blah. So, there's this happening. So eventually, yeah, they broke these people down. And then some people were just almost to the point of going mad. And then this Schultz guy would just walk in, give the guy a hug, saying, hey, this is all for your good. We're all doing this for you. This is not, we want you to be better, right? We all want ourselves to be better. And then the guy would just break down, right? He would just like, it's akin to this kind of religious experience. Like he would just look at this guy like, wow, this is like, you're amazing. Right, you're actually allowing me to realize my own problems because I wasn't able to face my problems because nobody told me this, or I wasn't cognizant enough, right? And so this group would just basically do this thing. It's almost like Fight Club, It's like you beat the shit out of each other with words, in terms of your behavior, and find out what will happen. So this is what he independently kind of found out. Well, yeah, like people actually these group can form because these people would have such a profound, to them anyway, it will be such a profound experience. It's the same as if they it's like a religious experience, right? So these people would open up in this way, and he found this very fascinating. Now, there's another guy who independently, what he did was actually he started a cult. So he was this guy who was not very successful in his own life by his own admission, and he also was very, he had a bad childhood. And what happened was he even had he suffered a stroke when he was young as well. So his face would be like half kind of like slumped. So he wasn't doing very well in life. So he was just kind of this vagrant who walk around in the US, living around from city to city. And he actually ended up in California as well. And he had a drinking problem. So he wanted to quit. So he realized I'm poor, I'm doing poor decisions, so I need to get my life better. So he joined a kind of like a alcohol anonymous sort of group, sort of, kind of similar. And what he did was he somehow he didn't know about any of this kind of equations or how this interaction are, but he independently replicated the result. He went to this group and he started doing the same thing. Kind of he took it over where they would, like in that kind of alcohol anonymous sort of thing where you have people who share their experience and this and that. He kind of turned that in that way where yes, you would break down that person, like say all the things that that they're supposed to hear but they don't want to hear. So it's like this kind of like beat me up, right? And so he was so successful, he convinced all these people, and he was able to kind of like start this cult called the Synanon. That was the group that was existed for a while. And eventually this thing was shut down by the US government for illegal dealings, criminality and stuff like that. So basically this guy was able to got power over these people because somehow these people kind of see him as this kind of guru. Like they kind of got them out of their alcohol addiction, and they formed this group, and but eventually there are a lot of shady thing going on with that as well. So independently, some guy like this, he actually made that work. And then lastly, there was another guy who was he kind of turned into a psychologist, and he wrote a book, and he kind of proposed what's happening with this phenomenon. He was a finance kind of guy, and he tried to get into finance, but because he had bipolar, he wasn't very successful with his job, and so eventually he tried to do an interview, join a job, and this job is very interesting. But the CEO says you have to join this group, and this group has this exercise just as these, like these group. What they do is the same thing. Like the CEO is saying, hey, you got to join for your interview to be successful. You have to join us in this thing where we talk about things and we essentially do the same thing like this. We will break you down and then make you
Wow.
better. You must be able to go through with this process for you to join our company. So he experienced all that, and what came to him was like, you know what? I have bipolar. This feels like being bipolar. You have this kind of huge kind of like like you beat yourself down. It's like the same with the manic disorder, where you're so sad, you're so depressed, right? At one moment, and all of a sudden you become so happy because you suddenly be able to release all these kind of bound energy. And so he quit. He didn't join this company. He ended up quitting his job and went back to school, and he started to study psychology. He got a degree, he wrote a book, and he was basically proposing what happens here is that when you are being broken down like that, your body go into shock, kind of a psychological shock. And to protect yourself, it start releasing dopamine because when you're being beaten down, right, you have lots of stress. You feel stress. So your cortisol level and all these kind of, stress hormones are being released. So you, as the person being verbally abused, you feel like you're being attacked, right? Like physically attacked. So
Yeah.
you feel the stress. And the body will naturally have a counteracting protocol, which in this case is the release of dopamine, the happy chemical, right? To give you all of that, right? And especially when it happens, when that pressure is being released, when you know that these people are attacking you, but you know that the explanation being that, oh, we're doing this for your own good. We're doing this so that we can get to the bottom of this. So essentially you're being cleaned out. You're being turned inside out and reconstituted back together. So
Yeah.
the moment that pressure is released, you feel a rush of dopamine. That's why these people have these kind of euphoric experiences when the thing is over.
Wow.
And especially when these people actually come in and give you a hug and be like, hey, we're just doing this for, we're not trying to harm you. We're trying to make you better. We're trying to, and you feel like you were talking, like this is like God is talking to you or something. Like these people giving me this kind of transcendental experience. And you feel like you get to know yourself better. Like, oh yeah, I see my problem.
Interesting.
Imagine that if you've gone through an ayahuasca session, isn't that kind of similar thing where you go through this experience
Yeah.
where it's supposed to be this cleansing thing, right? Like you vomit, you get to the base of the problem that, what you have. You're trying to be like, okay, can I see this in a different light, right? So this
Yeah.
seems like a mechanism. So this psychologist, he was trying to form a thesis about explaining why this supposedly equation is actually real. Like it's just a way to describe these social dynamics, and it seems like there's something about it. And one could see how places like the cults, how the cult leader can control people is exactly using this sort of, I wouldn't say it's formula, but let's just say that it's just a way of doing it where it kind of hits a nail on the head. where
Hmm.
these cults will control your access of information. You will be in this group of people, right? And there's no other people can disturb you. And they would tell the believers certain things, basically control the narrative, right? Build
Yeah.
a certain way of thinking, and using these sort of punishment reward system to break down that person and reconstitute them into a new being, right? This reminded me of from the Game of Thrones. Remember that Theon was being broken down by Ramsay Bolton, right? The guy was a
Right.
psychotic, but he's just playing mind game with the guy, right? He just basically break him down so much to the base level, and the guy becomes so loyal to the guy, right? He becomes
Yeah. Because
broken. It's psychologically broken. So
the
it's like, yeah,
nervous
I'm
system
your slave.
breaks
I'm your,
down.
So in a similar way, I think this might, even though this is just some studies, these people and experimentations and things, and nothing is really proven saying, hey, this is exactly what happens. But you have people who have done these experiments and independently kind of verify this is a thing. So it's the idea that if you control that environment and break down the P and increase the E, this will happen. It will affect behavior for sure, even in the way that you want it to. So in the case of the Nazis, and it's like that. Like they will control the narrative. They give you in your head, this is how you're supposed to think. And these people, because of their own self-interest and everything, they will say, yeah, okay, I agree, because everybody else is doing it. And also, maybe you have some gripes with the group of people that they're saying is the one that caused all your miseries, right? So it's this kind of manipulation that happens,
Yeah.
changing the environment. You could be peer pressured into it, like what we're talking about, the plastic surgery, right? You could be so pressured by peer pressure that you just like, yeah, I'll do it too, right? Because I don't want to appear
Yeah.
as
Yeah. There's a big part of that.
right. You don't
People
want to
that just
appear different, right? So this kind of thing, like with people, it's like people do have this, like people want to be accepted. Part of it is that we all have this inclination that we want to be accepted by other people. We want to have a place that we belong. And so in these instances, it's kind of true. Like these people will form these groups, and they feel like, yeah, this is necessary to kind of make us better. Isn't this what other times what this religious group will tell you? Like, join us, and we'll tell you what's wrong with your life. Believe in Jesus, and all will be solved. And I can see how, in the U.S. you have these people in the mega church, right, doing all this. I can see why they would join, because their life are not going the way they want it to, and they feel like the church is a place where not only do I feel I belong because other people do accept me, and you feel like maybe you can even air your grievances and these people will be understanding. They'll be like, yeah, I understand you. And, that kind of air, like people feel they need that kind of environment, right? That's why they feel like, yeah, if only I have a place where I can just praise to Jesus and all my problem will go away. It's a emotional sort of, there's a need that's being met. Unfortunately, at the cost of your wallet. These super church, I mean, dude, they make banks because these pastors would just say all kinds of crazy things, and then you
Yeah.
just give them money because you're like, yeah, it's like everything's not go well, but they're saying,
It's gotta be like some form of hypnosis,
it
dude.
is.
Like,
But you see the environment, right? You change the environment, you allow that, like when there is no other information, all you're hearing is the preacher telling you the quote unquote word of God, right?
yeah.
And you constantly go there and listen to this thing, and you
God
feel like,
told me
yeah,
you
and
need
you
to give
start
me money.
agreeing. You have other people who are supportive. You can, this is what the function of the church. Sometimes it does function as that sort of like is very comfortable. You have all these people who don't disagree with you. You have a common core, commonality. You agree on a lot of things, and you can talk. You can, So in a way, I guess what this says ultimately is that we're very manipulable. Like
Yeah.
we have our own desires, things like try to be accepted by by other people, right? We have an innate desire to do so. And a lot of people have a stronger desire like this, where they are wanting to join anything that make them feel not alone, or somewhere that they can express themselves. And I keep thinking about the Fight Club. And actually, yeah, that can be a problematic thing as well. Because when you see the movie, right, like they are this kind of essentially terrorist organization, right? They
Yeah.
would just, but when Tyler Durden tell you these things, you're like, yeah, you start to agree. Okay, what he's saying is in a way kind of right, right? But what he's doing is, yeah, you beat the shit out of each other. You rebuild yourself. It's like a cult leader molding the cult, right?
Yeah, it's kind of providing some kind of framework for, like, for some reason those people are there, and not just because they got bamboozled, but because they were searching for something, right? And like somehow they were like, something in their life made them ready to be manipulable and get
Yeah,
like ready,
ready
join
to
some kind
hear.
of
You're
group
ready to
where,
hear the message,
yeah, where
right?
there's a framework where somebody will tell me what to do, like what the system is. But that's the danger,
Because
because that system does not care for your well-being. That's
because
the
you see,
problem.
yeah, that's the brilliant part about the story. I think if you need to read into it, it's like I don't think the author was saying this is a good thing, but it's a way of it happens because people do have legitimate grievances with the society, right?
Yeah.
And they're finding ways to kind of alleviate that. And it's true, like you would start nodding your heads, like, yeah, what they're saying is true. We're in the modern world, we're all like we buy things that we don't want, to earn money to impress people that we don't like, like all these type of things is kind of true. So it's not that it's lying to you. So this is the part where the manipulation have to have certain truth to it. Like you will use certain truth and you will agree to these things, but then ultimately your actions are being manipulated to kind of in agreement to it. And so you will be more malleable. This is kind of goes along with the what you were saying about your experience with some of these gurus, right? Not to say that
Yeah.
they're completely bad and they're just totally just like a cult or anything, but
Yeah, like they're serving some kind of purpose, right? They're serving some kind of need that may be temporary, but still there's a lot of confusion going on, especially from the standpoint of people who are seeking and, on the receiving end, because they have no way of telling what the hell is going on. They think about like, oh, I'm going to get what I want, but they don't even know what they want.
because they
And
don't
that
know. That's
yeah, and
because they don't
that
know.
makes them into this very vulnerable spot where they're just like this child open to like, okay, tell me
Tell
what.
me what to do.
And that's when your critical thinking is at the lowest, and when you just filters it down, and you're like, because you think something is good is happening to you, but that's where at your most
And,
vulnerable.
and this is the part where it's a crazy experience again. When I was watching Dune, it's the moment when that last kind of he was doing the speech and it was the whole thing was like it was reminding me of that. It's like, yeah, these people are primed for this,
Yeah.
right? The superstition were planted thousands of years ago, and they imagine you were Stilgar, like, yeah, you like finally I see all the signs, and then
Yeah,
finally
all
he did
this
it.
matches.
He did the thing. He actually predicted the future. He's saying things that he shouldn't know about, right?
Yeah.
And imagine at that moment, like the tension. If you're Stilgar, you were kind of like, yes, you're a believer, but then you were kind of like, well, I need proof that this is for real, right?
Hmm.
Because you're like, we've been waiting for a long time for this. Can this really be real, right? So a lot of the times, right, from the beginning, he's like, maybe there are signs, yes, and then to more and more, like seems like it's for real, and
Yeah.
then at the end, it's like he's just completely like, yes, this is it. This is what we've been waiting for. So imagine that release of energy. He was just like, finally, it's true, right? The tension is just being blown away. It's like, yes. That's why he's like, you know, what do you foresee for us, right? Like, I'm ready to give up. Like, yes, I'm yours. I can do whatever you tell me to do, right? It's that kind of, because all the time people carry this burden. They're like, we're carrying the burden, and they just wanted to hear somebody be like, you understand me. Like, if
Hmm.
somebody does that to you, you like, you just feel like, yeah, there's a whole weight kind of being lifted, right? And that's where the interaction between people, it can be just like, yes, can they do they satisfy some sort of need that you have? Yes. But when they do that, is that really for your best interests, right? Because you don't know what people really want. That's the problem with people. Is like we can
Yeah, the
talk about
biggest
what we
risk is
want.
that
We
like
can,
you'll find yourself being used for someone else's game, and gains, and it happens all the time. And like I mean that alone to me it's enough to make you suspicious of any kind of group dynamic. Essentially, anytime you're entering any
yeah,
kind of relationship like that, especially in a group, you should be really paying attention to like who is who here and who is doing what and what is the
yeah,
like really really questioning everything, right? Just so you can, because chances are if you pay attention to this stuff, you will notice these dynamics. You will notice like, okay, why are we doing this? What is the program? Who defines these things? Essentially, who's getting which benefit in this arrangement, in this group dynamic? It still goes back to that, because I mean there are legitimate genuine organizations because the people are there who are involved, they're good, they recognize what's good, what's bad, they're ethical, they actually developed cognizant intelligent people. But that's like the minority of situations. Most of the time, it is some kind of system that somebody organized to extract some kind of value,
yeah.
to sell something. And that's all, most of selling and marketing is like that, right? Because you're saying like, oh yeah, the classic advertisement, just like, yeah, it's just all so easy. You can get
Just
to
get this
invest here and
thing,
there.
and then
Yeah.
it'll
I
solve all
think
your
one
problem.
time, you and I think went to was some kind of random event again. Somebody invited me to in Toronto. It was like a real estate opportunity type of seminar. But the whole thing is
Oh
so
yeah,
silly and dumb
oh
because
yeah,
you,
yeah.
you you get in there. It's the free thing, right? Come to it, and there's a bunch of schmucks,
It's
including
like a
including
cult,
us,
right? It feels like a
sitting
cult.
there, and like, okay, but the whole premise is that like here are all these awesome opportunities, but the whole thing is just to sell you stuff,
Yeah,
because you're not gonna, most likely you're not gonna get any great deals. It's just to hook you up for you to accept the most amount of risk just so you can pay somebody some money. That's why you're there. Not
yeah,
because like, ooh, this is a great opportunity, you won the
yeah.
jackpot. No, dude, that's just the sales part.
Well, this is why I mentioned this thing because when I learn about this, it's like it's fascinating, right? Like fascinating, like human behaviors. But the reason I brought it up, it's that it's exactly what you were saying. Think for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because things like this could happen. Whether you think that's a good thing, because I'm sure it's the people who got some of these experience out of these groups can be positive. They're like, yeah, you really made me think about who I am and what my problem is and things that people are telling me, you know. But as much as you really like that experience, what does that say about your own self, who you are as a person, right? And
Yeah.
this is well, as a side note, like I'm really looking forward to the final Doom movie because I really want to see how they portray the Freeman disillusion with
Hmm.
everything about the jihad and everything because they will show part of that. It will be
Right.
fascinating to see because that is true in the story. Yeah, some of the Fremen got disillusioned when they see the ocean. It's like all this water, but not a drink, not a drop to drink.
Hmm.
Like it's salty. It's poison, right? That's something they never experienced. Like, what do you mean? All this water, but you can't drink it. It's poisonous, right? So
Yeah, it's this type of stuff. It's you're not thinking far ahead. You're part of your anticipation is definitely an illusion based on some kind of wishful thinking that has nothing to do with reality. That's why it's like anything, for you to understand anything properly is such a huge amount of work to do, which nobody wants to do by default, right? It's like it's not in a habit, but that's what, like even any kind of deep enough conversations. That's why, I mean, these days I barely exchange much, comments or anything online because most of the time it's just useless, people, because people are
set in their
on
ways.
different levels. They're set in their ways. They have different opinions. Like the other day, it was one of the rare occasions where it was just, sometimes I do feel like I have a good portion of either experience or message to share. But usually I just like, okay, this is what my experience, this is what I learned. But some people, they're so still seated in their ego that like some people perceive that like I am trying to correct them or trying to like show off of something, where in reality, that's not part of the motivation at all. Because there is such a thing that there are books written, there are conversations, there you have a certain type of experiences. So some things are a specific way. That specific conversation, I think, was about, the guy said in the comments that like there are no degrees to meditation. There's only like meditation, no meditation. And I was like, well, that's just incorrect based on all the available literature and living practitioners and your own experience. Like if you sit and meditate for 15 minutes versus 1 hour versus 3 hours, you're going to have different degrees of concentration that you will be able to achieve. So what you're saying doesn't make any sense, right? I broke it down and the guy got so defensive. He was like, what? You're just swinging your dick around. Is like, what? It's like, no, that's just a fact. Some things are like that. So I asked him to like, what is your source of reference? And he couldn't even do it. He just said, you're just an asshole. You shut up. You don't know nothing. It's like, that's probably some kind of child, because when you're given like a list of things, like, well, this is why I think that way, and the other person just is not able to engage with that. It's just with some people, you won't even have enough common language, or, one of the person is not mature enough or not experienced enough, or, so arrogant that they're not even able to see the things that they don't know. So some of this communications barely can happen amongst most people.
Yeah, because a lot of people, they want to be right?
Yeah,
they don't feel good when they're being corrected, because they feel like, I did something wrong. I did,
completely, yeah.
But you have to have enough of a, this is the problem. And we're talking about not just your everyday people. This happens to people who are in power, right?
Yeah, to everybody.
We see it right now happening. These people think they know everything. They think they know what's best. And, not to go into it, but currently the situation in Russia, it's just that. Yep, you thought you got it, but you don't got it. Now the situation has turned and it's go sideways now. And now you have a whole systematic problem that is happening because everything goes into each other, and you have a problem you can't solve now.
Yeah, if anything, such situations really highlight how crappy things are. Because at the bottom line, the ability to achieve goals is how you measure certain efficiency, Because even if something doesn't go according to a plan, well, if you can't mobilize your whole freaking ass country to do a couple things right, then what are we doing here, right? Then you got nothing. You can't put it all together.
Because
you're not able to organize your shit.
There's always some surprise. This is why you don't start wars, because it's so unpredictable. Because basically Putin thought that he got enough money to do this, right? He saved up a large chunk of money. Before he started this, it's like he saved a lot of money. It's like, okay, I think I have enough. And then what ended up happening is, the war happened. Things happen differently than you thought it was going to be. And now you burn through all your savings, all your reserves, and now you're out of money. And now you have to panic and try to find ways to get more money and try to come up with the money to keep the system going. But now everything is grinding to a halt, because what you did is you destroyed the economy for the sake of the war. And now everything is just grinding, that is just slowing down. There's no way to do this.
That's just why, this is the stuff I like doing, is essentially like this decision analysis, right? But the thing is, I think we talked about this before at some point, is that analysis can be infinite, but you should still be doing it to an extent where it's kind of like risk management, right? You identify that this is the bottom line, but in this analysis, you map out what you can perceive, right? So you say, okay, and you need to explore scenarios. So you would need to go, okay, if we do this, what are the possible options that can happen, right? And you think of the worst things, the bottom line, the best case scenario, the risk, etc. And ideally, you account for all of that, as in you have scenarios for what you're going to do if this happens.
It's
because
like chess.
The probability, exactly. It's a probability thing. You don't just say like, okay, well, we just send our tanks there, and then surely they just fall over, and then we roll over, and in 5 days we're done. That's dumb. That's just based on nothing, You need to explore as much reality as possible, which means you need actionable, accurate intel for both inside and outside. you need to understand reality as close as possible to what it actually is, rather than, some kind of delusions, wishful thinking, optimism, naivete, immaturity, because all of that contributes to, it's a showcase of how distorted the perception of reality is versus how it actually is. It's kind of scary, for the most part. This is why I don't bother with this anymore, I don't really bother with trying to predict the reality,
You
dude.
can't.
I didn't, like, this move I'm doing to Vancouver, I did not plan shit.
Don't have
I
to.
know I'll be there,
You
and
figure
I'll
it
be
out.
conscious, and I'll be present, and I'll
Yeah.
figure it out.
Exactly.
But I'm not going to be saying, it's like, okay, in 1 year, I'm going to have like this, and this, I have no
Yeah.
idea what's going to be in 1 year.
Exactly. I mean, we have I guess in this case, like we do have the luxury of playing by ear. But imagine
Yeah.
if you're the president of Russia and you try to do this thing and you're like, well, I can't just wing it. And for the
Yeah, but
best plan that he came up with, it didn't work. And for whatever what happened
yeah, well,
now is
that's
just
why, like, this is these positions of power and responsibility, like they're not for the faint of heart, but also, like, ideally you would take that stuff seriously enough where you'll be like feeling that, like, all of your actions have so many ripples, that you need to be trying to stay on top of your game at all times, right? It's such huge amount of responsibility that there's not going to be much leeway, but surely that's not the people in power. That's not what they're doing.
they don't think about that. They're like,
Yeah,
however I can hold my power.
because yeah, in ideal situations, and I mean, some of the leaders are probably like that. Some of the smaller country leaders are probably closer to that. But essentially, you are the servant of the people, ideally, because really that's your primary function. You are there to try and figure out all these most pertinent questions and try to do least amount
Yeah.
of damage possible. And
Not because you want something, right?
yeah, but
essentially
just so you can try and
what these dictators are
organize stuff
doing,
for others.
they're just like, oh, I want it. I want this to be the case. I want this to be true, and I'm just doing it. You think you're ready, but you're not, right? Things happen like when it get out of hand. This is what happened right now. It's got out of hand, and you can't even know how to even stop it. And the ironic thing is, Putin says that the part of the reason he started this war was to basically stop the NATO expansion.
Right.
But right now, the NATO is expanding. This is actually because of the war. He actually made what he doesn't want to happen because now they're arming themselves because the U.S. have left. They're like, well, I don't care about you anymore. Europe, you can do your own thing. And the European countries are like, well, now how to protect ourselves. So I'm going to raise our budget for the military. And that's what they're all doing. So now the war not only is not going in the favor of Russia, and the Ukrainians are not willing to play ball now because the power is in their hand now, right? They can dictate some terms now because of their operations. How do you stop? You can't stop, and you can't. It's almost like you're stuck. Like you can't go forward, and you can't go backward, right? Because you can't accept some terms that are just not good for you, and that just not only humiliation, that also means instability back home because people be like, "You're such a weak pussy." We're gonna regime change because you're not you all these people have died. We economy is in the shitter, and this is all because of you. And then we got nothing, right? There's no way that he can just take the deal like that and still survive. No, there's no way. So he has to win.
That's just
he has to win.
That's digging, like, win by what?
By what? You can't
account,
you
right?
can't advance. You can't take over all the land in currently. And then
what's gonna happen?
What are you gonna do? If you accept defeat, if you accept some kind of term, then you kind of lose face, right? You're like, well, the Ukrainians are dictating term now, so if I accept it, then like shameful display, right?
Yeah.
But then if you want to dictate term, but you can't do it because you're not doing enough you don't have enough power on the field of battle to dictate the term. So now the whole thing got reversed. The EU military, the NATO is expanding. So you are in a worse position than if you didn't start the war, right?
And this is the type of stuff that would be predicted, because this is even on a high level, right? This is simply the question that should have been asked is, yeah, what happens if we're not able
to
to,
do it.
yeah, to do as fast as we projected? What happens if the logistics problems are there? What happens if there's new superior technologies refuting all our advantages, etc.? What happens if the world is sending them support in this and here? What happens if we're not able to do it, yeah, and our economy is tied up, etc., etc., etc.? All of these are scenarios that, should have been accounted for, because if they have been accounted for, you'd have immediate responses to them. You would not allow this to like drag out into years where there's no objective, advantage happening for you. So it's just a demonstration that, yeah, nothing is organized there. It's not able to execute any of these plans and will, and it's not able to respond to any of the situations appropriately, because nothing's good is happening.
The problem is what the goals of this whole the whole war here for Russia is not what the actual people want. This is just what Putin thinks that Russia needs, right? It's his own, basically his own will. So the meaning that the people who have to carry this out, the military, the whole industrial complex or whatever it is, the economy, if you will, are being held as hostage, right? Because he's saying we're doing this, and you don't have a choice, right? But there are going to be inefficiencies in this whole endeavor because people don't want to do it. They're being compelled to. So there's inefficiency in the execution. And now as things go not well, these discrepancies is going to get bigger and bigger because people are not happy. The fact is people are dying, right? For nothing. This is like all these tragic happenings is exponentially growing bigger and bigger. And so people are discontent. It's like, why are we even doing this? We didn't want this to happen in the first place, and you wanted this to happen just because you said so. And we had no choice, and we did it. And now we're in this position, and every step of the way, like if you want to achieve the goal, every single aspect of it has to be working in concert for it to work.
Yeah.
There's too much friction, and now the friction got so bad that the entire thing is slowing down, the entire thing is just not working, and there's so many problems happening, right? You have leakage there, and then everything is just falling apart because you can't even hold the thing. Like you force the whole thing to happen, meaning that is tenuous, right? So it's not like a full, like everybody wanted this, then it will happen differently.
Yeah, but yeah, it's all right, dude. It's enough about that topic. It's like it's the same every time. Like it's not there's nothing interesting there. It's the same shit.
But the reason I raise it up is like the human hubris, right? So what one wants to do is think about what you're doing, right? Both in terms of when you're dealing with society, right? And also what are you doing for yourself, right? It's like the world is so complex that you have to navigate it. Not only can you not completely trust everybody else to have the answer, because they don't, but you also can't say that I know all the answer. I got everything figured out. No, you don't. You also don't. So the tricky part is you can, no matter how smart you think you are, right? In this case, yeah, if you think you have all the power, you think you have all the resources, you think you have everything figured out. Well, reality have a way of showing you how wrong you are, So that's all I'm saying. Like it's just, these things are tragic. These things are but they are happening. These are realities, human reality happening right now. If anything, this is like a black humor, right? It's if it's almost funny if it's not tragic, but it's happening. Real people are experiencing this because this is a farce, right? It's like a farce, but then the real consequences. So this goes to show that whatever decision that you make, you're gonna have to own it, right? That's your responsibility. You're doing things that can have ripple effects across space and time, and you better think before you do.
Yeah, but also like you do have to learn from your mistakes, and you have to pivot when you recognize that something is not working, And pivoting may be very difficult, especially if the based on the
Scale
group and
of
organization
the
and scale of it, all right. But I think it still has to be at the forefront uh, of organization. That's why, like in the IT industry that I worked in, there was a new project management style that evolved eventually that was pretty popular for a time. I think now I don't know what's going on with it. It's not as popular, but it's the agile approach is when you continuously reassess on a recurring basis. And it makes so much sense to be, especially in that type of environment where there are just a lot of unknowns. So like imagine like with something like a war, you get together and you discuss a current snapshot. But with something like a project or war that has to go forward, you have to consider that future state, but you have to realize that your idea about that future state is obscured by all these unknowns and that's present everywhere. That's present kind of in any dealing. For example, like this difficult clients that my mom encounters in her work, they also like sometimes they go, they've just been unreasonable. They would say something like, well, how come you didn't tell us about this? And this, like that thing that they're complaining about, it just doesn't come up until a certain point. So it's not like you can
you
meet with a
can't
person
predict
and talk about all the possible things right away. Nothing works like that. You would have to, first of all, sit there and talk for several hours. But then it's such a huge brainstorming project that it's just a lot of the stuff just unfolds throughout time and you become aware about it like throughout time. So you can't even blame anybody for these things. With some of these things, you do have to be understanding, but like that's the tricky confusing part, is that it's almost like it doesn't make sense to blame anything. Like in an ideal group, if like everybody would understand that yes, everybody makes mistakes, are unknowns, because this desire to blame others is like strong in humans, because it's the easiest thing in the world, right? It's just like, it's not me, it's this guy. But like that guy had his own reasons, right, for why he didn't handle it. So like I definitely encountered that. We do our best. We do our best. And this is why there's like, if you are doing an important decision-making process as part of your recurrent process and stuff, you need to have a good system where you have enough of checks and balances to account for all these unknowns and risks and stuff.
Yeah.
But man, so many organizations and places where none of that is in place. Because that's why the corporations and really rich groups and stuff, they do actually coach their staff a lot. They bring all kinds of professional. They bring like meditation masters. They bring negotiation masters, sales masters, and they make them train their people, because they're real skills and systems that if you do employ, and also like intergroup dynamic type of specialists. Because I hear about this sometimes, and like to me, it makes all the sense. Because if you have even something as simple as this, imagine you're a corporation and you have like some kind of council that has to work together, make some decisions together. If you do something like a little group meditation before your actual business working session, the results will be different. There's something about like these even small little rituals like that, which create a certain amount of space. And also it does affect your brain waves, the way your brain works. And when you do it in a group setting, it does some kind of synchronization where like it's palpable. The group dynamic and the type of discussion and brainstorming is different. So I fully believe that, if a group that tried to explore that and figured out that method of creating some kind of space and having some kind of framework, their results will be better. There will be smoother, their communication will be better, their brainstorming will be better, because that creates this whole kind of dynamic of like, we're doing this together the best way we can.
Right.
And that's the priority.
Yeah, because if you don't do that, you have all these unnecessary ego in the way, right? All different egos trying to be like, well,
Yeah, it's the wrong approach. It's solving for the wrong thing, because the ego gets carried away, right? The ego will be concerned. It's like, well, my idea is heard. Like, I need to convince them that this is the best case, versus what can we all
what's good for
collectively,
the project, right?
collectively come up with and support each other and collaborate. Yeah, it's the example of like, there are better ways to do things for sure. There's a lot of mastery involved in dealing with reality. But then, yeah, it depends on what you want. Like I'm telling you, like with what I arrived at in my own conclusions is that it's like something like a project manager is not even needed. Like my personal opinion is this is what I'm coming in conclusion to. This is why I don't even want to work in that
Well,
field
it's
because
only it's only because of how inefficient everything is. You need a project
yeah,
manager to keep everything together,
pretty
right?
much. Yeah,
If everything is supposed to work the way they do,
exactly.
they don't need a manager. You're supposed
No,
to just everything just works.
because like I worked in those situations where when there are capable people who are smart, who know what the hell's going on, like they don't need me. They just everybody
They know
exchanges
what to do. Yeah,
information.
they
Yeah,
just
and it's happening. The only thing that I would be there is just to help make sure that there are no gaps in communication. But they're really easy to not have if everybody's just freaking present, capable, and available, and
yeah.
and is being paid and stuff. So when that happens, it's like, yeah, the work is just happening. Everybody knows what's going on. It's so easy to see, dude. So a lot of these problems are just on an organizational levels. That's where they sit.
See, that's the problem. Everybody have their own ideas, and to synchronize a group of people, it's
Yeah.
very hard.
Ideally, I would want to see something like some kind of personality matching on any type of group or team organization,
Yeah.
because that would do wonders, dude. But nothing like that is happening in most companies.
Right.
It's just random people that
Random
you come up
people.
with,
Yeah.
and they all can be like completely, at odds each other psychologically, and that sucks. That makes everything worse. Because I've been in those situations, right? I've worked with people who are like you're psychologically compatible with. Everything is so smooth.
Yeah.
Like it's great. It's amazing. But how hard is that to do? It's not that
Just take
difficult.
a
It's there.
test.
Yeah, there's just a ton of tests, and yeah, they're not 100% accuracy, but like
Give you an
it's
indication. Yeah.
absolutely doable. It's absolutely doable. So, but then of course, the only companies that do that, there's very high prestigious with lots of competition, to get in them. So not everybody's going to be able to enjoy that type of environment.
Yeah. Also, people are gonna cite this is discrimination, blah blah blah, right?
Yeah, it kind of depends on what kind of testing there is, but
I think that's part of the problem why it's not in use, because they don't want a liability of other people saying this is discrimination, because
I mean,
just you're weeding people out for the sake of, if it's compatible with
no, but
whatever.
it's like it's organizing the teams, right? So you could be just put together to work with other people based on that,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's not going to be used to like fire you or something. But I'm sure something like that would be part of it. I mean, but that's the beauty of some of those testing systems, right? Like the socionic is that's just somebody is of some kind of type, and just everybody has their own strengths and weaknesses. So you would be able to organize and just balance everything out, right? Just the right people at the right place. But nothing is that precise and definitive. That's the problem with the human world.
Yeah, it's like
Everything is so
chaotic.
chaotic. It's just
Because yeah, if we take the
not ideal.
if we take the sound analogy, it's like the frequencies, right? Because frequency can be constructive and can be destructive. So when they are the same frequency, you can actually with a high amplitude, you can actually amplify when they're on the same or similar frequency. But then if it's the opposite, you get destructive. So you got actually cancel that out. So human world is almost like you have certain instances where these frequencies are amplifying and some of them are being destroyed, right? That's just what happens in the real world, right? So you have a lot of inefficiencies, right? You have higher gains and then higher loss as well, right? Just because of randomness, right? Random people interacting, random, problems, random results, just because of, but yeah, it's, that's the world we live in, man. I mean, we wish we can, we constantly
Yeah.
talk about how we're supposed to organize society in the best way possible, but I don't know. It's just almost an impossible task.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't. It's kind of essentially it's another ego project, right? We're gonna make it right. We're gonna make it nice and harmonious. There'll be no problems. Everybody's gonna be happy all the time.
Doesn't work. Like
It
Smith
doesn't
says,
doesn't work.
the
Yeah.
Matrix was created to do that, but you guys don't like it, so we gotta create all the miseries for you to feel that it's real. right? You don't
Yeah.
accept good stuff. You need to be suffering for you to accept that this is reality. So I don't know, but people have tried, right? Different people have different proposals and everything, but nothing really ever worked, right?
Yeah.
When have we ever
Uh,
created a society that's
Dude, I don't think you'll find me anytime soon being, working in any groups or organizations where you have to deal with a bunch of people, where you have to like either organize them or coordinate them or lead them, because I don't know, dude. It's such a precarious thing. It's
yeah.
such a like it's a lot of it is just you have to believe, and you have to just to say the party line and just say it enough times until like let's just all believe in it. But that's another
Like
case of where you have to just pretend a lot, and I just don't like
it's
none of it.
it's true though, because you see, if you're a leader of any sort of leader, you almost can't be a pessimist, right?
Yeah.
Imagine you go to everybody, everything's
Or realist.
fucked, so this is pointless. So just still do your job, okay? Even though it's pointless, go fuck yourself, whatever.
Yeah.
But still, you got to do it. You got to do your job. But how is that going to motivate anybody to do anything, right? So it's almost like people want to be lied to, right? It's like for people to be motivated, you have to make them feel like, yeah, this is making a difference. But the reality is sometimes it's not like that. So basically, a leader had to lie to the people, be like, yep, everything's fine. Things will go well, but things are not going well. But you can't just say it. You can't just outright be like, yep, everything is screwed up and we're all screwed. Let's just create
Yeah.
panics, right?
Yeah. I mean, I totally see kind of that point as well. That because I used to be that way, where it's like, well, don't we have? Isn't that part of being realistic and talk about the negatives in sobriety? But yeah, the more and more I encounter it in real world, yeah, many people don't want to engage with. Everybody wants to just maintain this
You know,
illusion, essentially, right? And
yeah,
try to just
that's what I'm
just
saying.
close your eyes, like, right, don't mind it,
Yeah,
just everything's good.
that's what's happening, right? People prefer lies. They prefer to not see. I mean, everybody says they want the truth, but can they handle the truth? That's the question, right? Like a lot of people are just willing to just go with the illusion that, oh, everything works, fingers crossed. But that's just such a weird thing about of human psychology, right? It's like, yeah, I kind of you can when you see it, it's like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, everybody needs motivation. They need some sort of like, you know, pick me up sort of thing. But then that's just a lie. A lot of times it's just a lie. It's just an illusion that's. But people kind of is essentially this is what, at least in literature or film or whatever, is the idea of hope. Right? People are hoping for things to be good, but even despite the fact that maybe things will not ever happen that way, but maybe that's what defines people, is this kind of, maybe you can call it foolish, but is that hoping things to be different is kind of what drives people, I guess. Because even, I guess it's true, because if we put the words of Viktor Frankl, was it Frankl?
Mm, yeah.
What's the guy's name? Yeah, who suffered through a lot through the concentration camp, but because he kept hope, right? He kept it going. He's like he tried to be, live in. It's almost like very zen about it, right? It's sort of like, given the situation, but still kind of kept his hopes up, and that kind of helped a lot of people as well to be able to go through that. Because I think, yeah, if he was of a different mentality, if he's just like, everything is screwed up, I'm gonna die here, then he's probably gonna die. It's almost like whatever you wish to happen, it will happen, right? So it's kind of like
Yeah. But that
self-fulfilling
it's
prophecy.
self-fulfilling prophecy, but also like the power of meaning. That was the big takeaway from me, is that you essentially are able to create the meaning structures yourself, which will be resilient enough to withstand whatever the world throws at you. That was the biggest thing, biggest inspiration for me. And it kind of, one of the funky insights that I had, not, I think this summer actually, yeah, is that I thought that maybe the meaning of my life is to stay on top of my temper. That's my quest. My quest is to be there and to make sure that shit doesn't get out of control. And there's something to it where it's both funny and true, because if I don't do it, who else will, you know? And that's like my challenge is to learn to do it, and that can take a lifetime. I had
Wow.
a trippy thought like that. I was like, even that could be a cool little, you know, quest and mission statement that you can say, because something like that is a lifelong thing, and it is a sort of mastery that only you can figure out, you know, and it requires you to constantly be figuring it out. So it's something like that where it has nothing to do with the world or anybody else. It could be my own little game that I'm playing my whole life, you know? And it could be, you know, powerful enough where like that's all I need. I just need to stay on top of that stuff and I'm good.
Or maybe you need to do it like Les Grossman, where it's
Just fully embrace it.
strategic.
Yeah.
I feel like the whole movie, this is my conspiracy about that character and movie, where he was totally under control. All this is an act. He's just acting
I
like
think
I'm
so
this,
too.
he
Yes.
controlled everything worked out because he sees what these people need to see, what
Yeah.
they need to do. And some people, as they say, if they whine about anything, you just take down their pants and you know.
I mean, but I like that illustration specifically also because he makes it like a part of the industry thing, almost like, you know,
Yeah.
like it's acceptable to do it that way. And there are many such, you know, positions in the world where it is true. Like what's another famous one? The chefs. So it's
Oh yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
cook culture,
The
that's acceptable. It's
Gordon Ramsay, right? Yeah.
yeah, that everybody's just yelling at each other, like cursing, putting down, you know, it's part of for some reason, that's part of it because I guess it's a high stress, high pressure work environment where everybody needs to chop, you know, and something like that conveys the message very quickly. But also, like, that can't be the healthiest way to do it. Like, I mean, it depends on how you do it, right? If you do it like with enough self-awareness, I think that's where it's great because you can have that intensity, but it's not aggressive. It just highlights the importance of certain moments, but it's not like you are actually lashing out at people. That's where I think it works. But it would be obvious, like when you know when somebody is employing it like that versus they're out of control. They're
Yeah.
just, you know, irritable, you know, they're just yelling at everybody. I think so. And I can see it in myself as well. It's just, I definitely barely scratched the surface in terms of understanding how to wield the like aggression
The
specifically
emotions,
properly.
right?
Yeah, because there's a time and place, but there's definitely mastery to deploying it strategically and correctly. Because you can take something like that and just be firm but not necessarily aggressive, right? You can just say it like, no, I think we should be doing it, or not even think, right? It's language is involved. You're like, we should do it this way because it's definitely going to cost us this, right? It can be, I have very difficulty because my gradation of it, it's either 0 or 100 essentially. Like I can't pair it very well. That's where the mastery like needs to be
But
figured out and
you
practiced.
know, yeah, the beautiful thing about that is like he had that whole diatribe before the I'll fuck you up, right? It's like, yeah, no.
He built up
Because think
the
about it,
temperature. He
that's just not pure blowing up. Because pure blowing up,
no,
you just go. But he had the
it's so
whole you
coherent. Yeah. Which means like that he like it's almost like he designed that whole thing. It's like he's gonna
yeah,
lead you to this
to that.
crescendo, yeah. But like for you to understand that I'm in control of all of this and it's all very deliberate. It's this gradual like, and then I will, and it ends in that. Yeah, it's
So exactly, because you know what? How I well, I wouldn't say how I know, but like how I picked that up. Because it's so funny because the whole time they did it on purpose. You know, behind his office is that giant, right? This
just to keep to keep their balance
is
in
the
mind,
mantra.
right?
It's the mantra. So
We
like I'm
gotta
like,
keep it chill,
okay,
bro.
this guy is a meditation master. Okay, he can master his emotions pretty well. That's how I think about it.
Yeah, there's something to it. Essentially, it's like because it could be part of the Wu Wei, you know? It's just if the situation is calls for,
For
okay,
that,
what's happening? The terrorists are calling, right? But no, we're gonna put our big D on the table, and we're gonna, and it's natural. It's like it's so organic and natural that it
I
just
don't know.
makes
It's
sense.
it's just fascinating that with us dissecting this movie, it seems like there's so much more context
For
and
years,
like
dude.
and
Just for
because
years.
right now I'm gonna do it again because the
You
part
can't help it.
why it's so good because he did the whole dance for Peck
Yeah.
because he thinks that is necessary because this guy is not gonna play ball until I set the tone, okay? Because if I don't do this, this guy is very resistant, right? Whole time he's just like, come in accusatory, like this, you didn't do this, you need glasses, you need, this is a violation of my client's right, blah 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 blah. And then you hear, oh, this is actual, the guy is actually being kidnapped by terrorists. Okay, that's the situation. So to achieve what he wants, it's like, okay, I need to lower my exposure here, right? The movie is fucked. They waste so much money blowing up prematurely the fireworks that wasn't even filmed, right? Millions of
Whole
dollars down
bunch
the
of
drain,
systemic failure.
right? How do I get back from this and make money? So his head is turning. It's like, oh, okay, so he was taken by terrorists. Okay, let's play this, right? And so he just basically let Pet take the fall. Like, you want to deal with this? This is your problem now, right? But I'm going to give you the resources for you to solve that problem, right? It's like, you go ahead and do it, you know? And then he did that whole thing just to soften him up. Be like, yep, you want to do it? You can do it. Lots of money in G5, wink, wink, like, you deal with this. That's your best friend. I'm not going to deal with this shit. So
But man, the brilliance of Tom Cruise's character is like, because he's so funny,
yeah,
but he's funny as that character, even like not as a watching a movie. He's funny there and like in those situations, because there's no way he's serious like that, right? Because so you can see that he's playing, but he's still like has goals and serious about achieving certain outcomes. He's just like letting you know that it's both like he knows how it goes, and the fact that he he still plays with it. That's the funny part. Like somehow this play part is very big aspect of this
but
communication style.
that's the push and pull method here, because what
Mm.
he's doing is that whole scene, right? So Peck is pushing back. So he's pushing back and be like, what, you're not going to accept it? You're just saying, he just did the whole, skin him alive, whatever, do whatever the hell you want. I don't give a shit. Right. And Peck was like horrified. So what do you mean? What do you mean he got kidnapped? You got to do something about this. And then he did the whole, you came in. Well, how did it go? Sucking on my left.
All right, we gotta redo the whole movie, dude. If we continue, we can't.
It's out of context. Yeah, so you walk into my door, right, begging for, but Speedman is a dying star. Like, he's out of the door. You want me to do something about that? I can't do that. He's a, white dwarf.
I mean, if anything, that's what good leadership is. It's dealing with difficult decisions and making difficult decisions, because if nobody is picking up on that and taking responsibility for that, things will just stagnate. Nobody will be able to move on, and because some of the decisions, yeah, they're difficult, but some of the situations call for them. So
yeah, he did the whole calculus in his head while dealing with the situation. He's like, okay, you know what? I can't. This is not like, I need this to be resolved, but I can't be dealing with this specifically, right? That's why he told him the truth. He's a dying star. There's no way that his career is gonna bounce back. We're not gonna buy into that anymore, right? So that's when he said it, right? Then we file, we'll put a scholarship in his name, right? We'll weep for him, right? We're officially gonna do all this song and dance and be like, we're very, commiserating, this tragedy, but and then we'll file an insurance claim. Okay, this is already a done deal, right? This movie is not going to make money, so we're going to file insurance claim because this is all screwed up. There's
That's his
damages.
job. He's just doing
We
his
need to
job.
claim damage control, right?
Yeah.
So hopefully by the end of the fiscal year,
But I mean,
they're going to make more money than what the movie will lose. So that's the truth, right? So
that's also a demonstration of, that's how the corporation and organizations, they have their own bottom lines. Like they're just human churning machines. They don't care for individuals. So if you are an artist, you're just an asset to this corporation.
And
so
when you stop
they're
working,
not considering
when you stop when you star power fades,
you discard it.
You discard it. That's it. It's not my problem anymore. He can't be he's not marketable anymore.
Yeah, this is not my concern. But that's where it's like, that's the paradox of, is that right? Like, who is that right for?
But
it's right to Les Grossman, but to the other guy, the morality and the fact that there's, again, different things mean different things to different people. Like to one, they not even think, like, what? So who cares? And to other ones, like, nope, this is like a solid moral ground. And I mean, I am of the opinion that morality is more important like that, than just like at the end of the analysis, because I do believe there's something both physically in the world where it's just easier to be a moral human being for everybody involved, but also I do believe that it's got to be some kind of karma that if you actively like disregard such problematic, big sins like that, I don't think you're going to be able to get away from it. Like that's my personal belief, that I don't think anybody gets away with anything.
Yeah, because it's like, because what happens with morality is, if everybody believes in this, then we do behave in a certain way, right?
Yeah.
And that is what stability kind of means. Is like you need a ground, a platform for which everybody obeys the same rules, right? And if everybody does that, then we can have a better society in that sense, because people are not going to just betray each other just because it's more convenient for them, right? Now, of course, you can say, oh, well, how do you limit people from doing that? Well, you can't. But if a culture can install this as a sort of default mode, everybody should be doing what's right. And if enough people do it, then we can always hope for a better world in that way. Because if everybody's just doing for their own self-interest, then it's just basically, free for all, right? It's just basically whoever can get away with that's just create a worse environment for everybody when there's no rules, right? Then it becomes whoever the strongest wins. And that's just very cynical. It's not even good for your health for the people who are perpetuating that. Because you're just lose a part of you as a human being. And you just like, when you just accept the fact that anything goes, or that I can use any methods and to achieve my goals.
The ends justify the means, right?
It doesn't.
Yeah, I think
sometimes
that's
it doesn't.
thinking.
It's not. There should be a line that has to be drawn. Like I'm not gonna go beyond this, even for the sake of. It's kind of this principle thing. I don't know if you finished that Game of Thrones spin-off, the Night of the Seven Kingdoms.
Oh yeah, I did. I didn't like it, dude. It was too slow paced for me.
But
the characters are kind of dumb.
But part of
I didn't like it.
I do see part of what that story is going for is this kind of, maybe it is romanticized idea about this kind of medieval sort of honor, sort of where in the story, right, even the leader, the king, or the ruler, he accepted the rules.
Yeah, that there are some things that are more important than others
for him, right? Because it's the right thing to do, even though it's not in his best interest to join in something like that. But because of what they honor, this is what our forefathers had done. This is how it's supposed to be. That honor is honor bound, and he still did what he did, right? Yeah. And then people actually still respect him for what he had done, even though it's kind of a dumb thing. Why would you do that? Right? Why would you risk everything and lose, basically? But that's the kind of worldview that these systems, why they're in there for in the first place, is to make people kind of obey that, to do that, so that everything can function. Because otherwise, if everybody's just like, if I can screw this guy over, then you gain something in the short term. But eventually, it's like a boomerang. It's gonna come back because somebody else is gonna do it to you, right?
Yeah.
This is what That's why you do things according to, sure, you can say it's
Yeah, because
naive. Sure, you can
everybody's
say
a
it's,
person. Like
but
everybody was gonna be hurt by stuff.
yeah, if
And
everybody, think
also,
about the
like it's
consequences.
very risky to mess with strangers because you don't know what people are like. You mess with the wrong person who's like crazy, who's gonna be way too offended, and they may do something really crazy.
Something really
So
crazy. It's true,
you don't
yeah.
want to do that.
But back to the thing, what I want us to say about, again, the Tropic Thunder in the scene is that, you see, he gave Peck the ultimatum. Basically, the bottom line is, we're discarding a Speedman, right? Whatever it is, we're getting our money back. There's nothing you can do about it. But you see after what he did, but the universe is talking to us right now. You just got to listen. See, he offered him a way out. Like, even though, yes, the truth is, we're not going to do anything about this, but maybe you can do something. Here's some money and a G5. Go at it.
It's just so perfect because he's just very artistic in the way he presents himself. Because from one standpoint, he's trying to persuade him, right? But
Yeah.
from the second standpoint, he's being really transparent about everything. He's just like, well, this is what I want, and this is what the situation is, and this is what you can do, and this is what you can get. Like, I love this. I would love to have Les Grossman as my boss. Because I'm all about for direct communication. Like
I don't know.
now we can think about
this
this.
might be just my headcanon, but I feel like, Bill Hader's character, he's so loyal to him because he sees it. This is an actual real leader, even though he's the monkey. He's like, yeah, I'm willing to do whatever, right?
Yeah.
But then he's like joking around. At the end, it's like, he's really joking, but then it's like, but seriously. That in itself is a joke because he knows this guy's capable. He can do things if I just give him the right incentive, and But he's a hype man, basically. Yeah, he's so into his whole, but he's useful. But then he's cut the, like, hey, don't cross the line, okay? Like, just because I give you some, benefits of the doubt, like, don't think that, a nutless monkey can do your job. That's how you keep them in line because you don't want them to.
You keep the ego in check. Yeah. Don't let them get carried away.
So yes, he might not be exactly the most quote unquote on the surface moral character in terms of being a CEO, but sometimes in those situations, I guess it does take that, you gotta.
I mean, this is why it's like you gotta be in the right place because only Les Grossman can do what Les Grossman does in that position, like, because it has to work, right, at all levels.
Yeah.
It has to work for you personally. Because if there was some person who has moral quandaries, he's not sure about, like, could be this, could be that, or somebody's like us, like, they won't be able to make those decisions and make it work. But if you are, if you're good at delivering the results that are needed from the position, and that's how you do it, and then I guess you're in the right place. Because you can criticize any position, any approach from any standpoint, and it's going to fail on some level, but at least this guy's effective.
See, that's the part where,
many nominations. You
saved Speedman's career.
Congratulations, sir.
But yeah, this is the dimensions of leadership, right? It's so difficult because how would you gauge it? Because sometimes you have to set rules. You can't just say, oh, well, everything is valid. You didn't do this because you have an excuse of everybody makes a mistake. Well, no, you have to perform. Doesn't matter what excuses you have to get a result, right? So sometimes you almost have to be crossing the line in a way, right? For certain leadership, you can't just be appearing weak and be like, oh, whatever they complain about, if you just acquiesce, then you're weak leadership. Then they can walk all over you, right? They can demand whatever thing that they want and get away with it, right? So the leadership thing is really just like, well, you do have to apply a firm hand, but you also don't want to be tyrannical where you are just basically bullying everybody, right? And everybody hates your guts.
Yeah.
There has to be like, we respect this guy enough, but we also know we should not be.
There has to be some logic to it, right?
Yeah, like we respect the guy enough, but then we know that certain things we cannot cross the line with this guy.
Yeah.
But then we also respect him because he's very capable, right?
Yeah, so a big part of that is kind of predictability. So if if you learn how the person behaves, you'll be able to navigate it, right? And if you know, it's like, okay, if I do this, he's gonna yell, and we don't want that. Then you just account for it, right? And you
The
adjust.
whole
And if you behave within the system, then everything's fine.
that the Bill Hader, he's so great. The acting is so great. The whole punching the director, right? He was just looking at it, and it's like, okay, it's happening. Yeah, he's gonna yell, so I'm gonna. God damn it! So it's
yeah, he's like
he's reading reading the room, reading what he's gonna do. He's trying. Okay,
But
this is
the funny thing is, like, even that has a place. Like that guy, that even though he's just being this hype man, it does serve a purpose. Like,
Yeah.
because it's almost like a good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
And if anything, they can play off of each other. And in an ideal arrangement, like they would consciously be doing that, because like nobody can do everything by themselves. And like I've seen that in examples in personal life and outside, where it's like, even though it doesn't look like that person is, like, it's not much that they're doing, but they're vital to the whole operation because they're performing some function.
I mean,
that
it's
is
not
just
going
not
to be
obvious to you.
as funny if he wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. It's, I don't know. Maybe I'm reading way too much into this movie, but I feel like everything has a purpose. Everything is designed. Like, this is the brilliance
it's
of this.
very well thought out.
But yeah, anyway.
And we can be doing the lore disambiguation for that movie for years to come.
Oh, and even for today's topic, we talk about plastic surgery. So we can now go into Burn After Reading. You know, Linda character, right? Like, she's the whole, like, she does not see reality.
Oh yeah.
Right? Just like, oh, what if
Dude,
I do this?
I'm sorry, but I can't get into that whole mindset, dude, of doing that stuff. That seems to be like, I understand if you have like a legitimate reason, like you have some kind of visible defect that it's actually very, very out of, the norm. That's one thing. But if you're like, oh, I'm gonna install silicone into my chest,
but
like I never I would say that's a great idea. I don't care. Like,
but you
it's
see,
literally.
But that's for a lot of people, that's the reality. That's what they're doing, right? Like, yeah, this is, in this case, is a movie showing the stereotype, but like, it's true. Some of these women, even men, some men as well, they do Botox or whatever. Like, they think that they can keep. A funny story, right? What happened recently was that, that Brian Johnson guy who is like doing all this biohacking, he just found out he has some
kind of disease.
Yeah, autoimmune disease is incurable. So it's like, it's just irony, right? It's like the universe is playing a joke on you.
Like, yeah, it doesn't matter what kind of plans you have. The universe has its own plans for you.
Yeah, and all of these people do the biohacking is actually reducing their lifespan. For all the stuff that they're doing, they probably can live longer without doing all that stuff.
Yeah, dude, I've went through my own phase of trying dozens of supplements because I was curious, right? Like, because like with everything, there's a claims, right?
Yeah.
Just take this and you will be 2 inches longer. It's like not gonna happen, bro. So most of it, didn't do anything. And even with like creatine. Like these days, everybody recommends it. They say it's the most researched compound that you can safely ingest and stuff. Well, I tried it a bunch of times and I don't like its effects. For me personally, it like one of the mechanisms for it is that it pumps a lot of water in your muscles. But that makes me perpetually thirsty. And then as a result, like I can't even sleep at night because I have to wake up and drink all the time water because I feel thirsty. Like it's a physical reaction that you can't do nothing. And even then, after I somewhat acclimated to it, it just didn't feel right. Yes, you can lift a little bit more in the gym, but overall, because of the side effects, like it's not worth it for me. So I was like, well, I don't even need even that. So because ultimately your body and your health needs to be in a certain equilibrium. If you're putting a bunch of these freaking chemicals into it, which are just supplements, it's like, do you need them? Like what? Because everything has a side effect and a cost. For you to take a supplement, you have to digest it. You have to allocate energy to putting it together. And what do you have in excess? You potentially you're creating disbalances with all this stuff. And that's the conclusion I came to. That is, you don't need much stuff. I just go to the gym. I eat, more or less healthy balance, and that's it. So I do like I still do a little bit of supplements, but they're much more neutral. They're stuff for like digestion and the various roots of vegetables. That's it. So like maybe maca powder root or, turmeric or something. It's like it's just food basically.
Mm-hmm.
Food is still the best type of
Yeah.
supplement, but any of these nootropics and stuff like that, I don't trust none of it. It's
No.
all just somebody selling something. Then you don't need them. It's because everything has a cost. Like you will have to pay for it some way.
See, that's the part when we realize that modern day life is just all of it is just much
You don't
more.
need much stuff,
It's
dude.
just more scams, basically.
Yeah,
More kind of buy this, buy that. Just because somebody want to make profit, and they just because of the fact that information get crossed so rapidly now, right? Like you get information all the time, and this is how they bamboozle you by just bombarding you with all kinds of
yeah,
alternative facts, and this person saying
yeah,
that person saying that, and they all have a motive, right? They all have a motive for promoting this thing or that thing, and you think you can
yep.
trust this person's word, but then they're just selling you a thing because they make money out of it, right? So I don't know, man. Like it just feels like humanity are just kind of going backward. It's like the more we're less honorable, we more shifty, we're more don't know our place. We don't know what's going on. We don't know like how to behave, how to, like it's all kinds of degradation because it's just like there's no rules anymore, right? Like we see more cases of like, yeah, rules are not being followed. People don't have a sense of morality to a certain
Yeah.
extent, right? A lot of people doing these things are just crazy and whatever. And more there's more mental illnesses because you don't, you allow all these things to happen, right? And actually give them legitimacy in some of these wrongdoings. And that just caused everybody to like, oh, I had no idea, right? You have all these young people growing up, I don't know, thinking everything is permitted. That's that's not the right way. There has to be rules. There has to be like, okay, this thing we don't accept. Okay, we do not allow this to, and this is the problem that happens with all these transgender thing going on, right? When you allow young kids without a developed brain to make decisions for themselves like that, where it is irreversible.
Dude, that I'm really not sure what that is, but like I I think there's a conspiracy, dude. I don't know what else would explain this rapid,
Yeah,
whatever the hell that is.
because
Obviously
you
something's
have an
going on, right?
industry of these surgeries, like
Yeah.
surgeons doing this stuff. They make money. That's like basically what
Yeah,
it
why is that
is,
happening?
right? Because why else would it be happening, right? If
Why in the world would that be an appropriate procedure to handle this type of behavior?
because money can be made, and then they just allow these. Do you want it?
But
We
that's the
give it to
argument,
you.
is that that itself is inhumane,
Yeah,
because people are just confused and people are like, oh yeah, just do that, just like do surgery. What? It's got to be some kind of abuse.
well, that yeah, but somehow society couldn't figure this out because they feel like, oh well, the logic being you have to accept these people who want to change as the real, thing. But then that logic goes like, if you go along with that logic, then everything has to follow, right? This is why they argue
Yeah, but then it
transgender
doesn't check out. It
need to
never
be
checks
in
out.
the, like say sport events. Yeah, all these guys turn into women, have to compete with the women. I mean, that's because the logic goes, right? If they are actually changing into that gender, that means we need to treat them as that. That means they have to be in the women's group. But then they're not. So
Yeah,
how is that
it
fair?
does not make sense.
Right?
It
But
doesn't make
just
sense.
because they're got hung up on the fact that they changed and therefore they have to be in that group now. It's like all the mental gymnastic that they had to do, right? So, and this is how we can have nice things because now everything has to go along that. And then it's like, oh, you're not respecting the human being's independent decision making rights. But they're kids. They don't know what's not yet, right? They don't know yet.
Yeah.
They're not 18 yet. They don't even have a sense of the world yet. And you allowed them to make decisions that are
Yeah,
irreversible.
it doesn't make any sense. It's like saying like, it's like, yeah, a kid says like, yeah, I'm a helicopter, just launch me from the roof, I'll fly. It doesn't make any sense, dude. That's why the kids like, they're not supposed to be in charge of anything because they don't know shit yet.
Yeah.
That's why like
It's one
it's
thing.
like
Yeah. It's one
it's
thing if
silly.
you're a grown ass man and you want to change. Okay, fine. Be my guest. You want to do it? Sure. you're a grown adult, you can make your own decisions. But, I don't know why they wouldn't even draw the line at kids. It's like, hey, okay, if you
Yeah.
want that, get educated about the process, and then when you are 18, then you can make that decision, right? You can do that. But apparently, some of these places like, oh, you're free to make decisions. You're a human being. Like, I don't know. I don't know what we're doing. Okay. I think that the world
Yeah.
has gone mad, and
People are confused.
it's just like, I don't know, enjoy the downfall of humanity, right? It's like, it's just gone way too crazy. That too many things are just,
I, I mean, like, this is my solution is just to not engage with that.
yeah. I mean, just
It is
pick your battles,
way,
right?
yeah,
Pick
way too
what,
much. Because I'm literally these days, I'm like, I don't want to know. Whatever it is, like, if it's not bringing me,
yeah.
joy and
Yeah, you see,
positivity,
this is the full
I don't
circle,
want to deal
right?
with
When
it.
we're young, we're like, we want to know everything, right? We want to learn about
Yeah.
all kinds of things about the world. And then at a certain age, you're like, I don't want to know, right? It's like, I
Yeah.
don't want to know. Just
Because what are
don't.
you going to do with it? This is
Yeah.
why, like, yeah, I know you can even say that even that is like, but you can't care for the whole world and deal with all these problems. Like, you literally can't, unless it's your job, unless you have some kind of plan of how you sustainably can do that. But even then, like, it's almost like, you know, people can't live without problems. So just, they make it up and they just choose something to be problematic with. And they just like, all right, we're working on this problem. But I don't know. I think so many people are just lost and confused, dude.
Because,
Lost and
I
confused.
just think that the problem is that there is no right answer. I think a lot of us
Yeah.
kind of simplify everything as like, oh, if only this is the way and blah, 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 blah. But then it's like, there's so many caveats to that because when you plug that into the equation, you actually don't get the answer that you expected, right? It's something different. There's some extra stuff that is not quantified, not quantifiable. It's not, it's a surprise, right? So that's what happens in reality. There is no optimal perfect solution for any problems. This is why we're still arguing and bickering about anything in the world, right? We have an idea like, oh, this is supposed to be this way or that way. But then, nobody's in agreement and everybody have different solutions. Maybe they will work, maybe they won't. But, and then we bicker about who's executing those plans, who's doing this and that, and who's doing whatever, right? And it's true, it's too much. And I think the only thing that you could do, yeah, is just if your life is as well as you could live it, that's a success. Yeah. I mean, other ways you can't really be because you can't solve the world's problem all by yourself, right? I mean, it is a concerted effort. And I guess like if you do everything right as far as you know for what you believe is right, then I think if everybody do that, yeah, world is gonna be a bit better than because there's so many cases of humans having ideas in their head saying they can change the world, and they end up, you know, basically the old saying, right? The hell is built by good intention, right? The road to hell is paved by good intentions, and I think that's very true because a lot of things that people they think this is for the good of humanity, and they're doing this for everybody, and they end up actually creating something so horrible that you know it's actually worse. So many times this has happened. So I think that if you actually stop with all these ideological certainties, let's just say, because all these movements, they give you this ideological certainty, like, oh, if we only follow what I'm proposing, then everything will be fine. It's this kind of overarching design that they think is going to work. But no, real society, real human lives, they're very messy. There are a lot of kind of minor changes and kind of adaptations that happen. So you can't just have this one movement that say this is going to change everything. Again, case in point, what happened with communism? It didn't work, right? It didn't solve anything. A whole bunch of people died for it, for nothing, right? So you can't have something because what feels good, if an argument, if it feels good, you need to start thinking if it actually makes sense. Because a lot of times we're so bamboozled about what feels good that we forgot about the actual math. the actual, what does it actually make sense? Somebody did the math, right?
What's the actual thing that
This is what we're talking about with that
here?
behavioral equation. You can join a group like that. They can tear you down and you can feel great about yourself. And maybe you get some insight about yourself, right? But if you worship such group and thinking that, oh, I found my group and what they're saying is always right, well, you're just a chump, right? That's a highly possibility. So anything in life, yeah, nobody has all the answer, but you kind of have to start kind of use your own kind of heuristics and kind of processes that to kind of filter out everything, right? And also know that you don't know everything and you can't always be right, but be willing to change your mind as well. But also hold your ground. So you see how hard it is, right? You can't do too much of this, you can't do too much of that. But that's what the reality is. It's an iterative process of finding out what works and what doesn't. And I think in reality, in the macro sense, this is what people have found out about the economy, for example, is that the market economy just works. This is the best thing that we came up with. And any other system that you want to go with, it's actually bringing worse results than, say, if we participate in this, I made this, I sell this, and you have a better price, then I had to match that price, and we figure it out, right? It's that market price. Whoever says this is a real information being exchanged. This is the crux of the economic process, is that what the market forces are giving you real-time information. That way you know better. Because I run a little business, so I kind of is interacting with this all the time. Is I set the rate for my service, but there are other guys setting their rates. So whoever offer the best service and bang for their buck, they get the job. So if I charge way too high,
But also there is such a thing as market and a different business strategy. Like what I've just seen, right? Like one company for transporting stuff offered the price $8,000, another one $1,800.
Yeah.
How is that possible? That's a huge price difference. But both companies exist and both companies have clients. Think about that. So it's not as simple as just like do it cheaper.
Exactly. It's a bigger environment, but there is a number, right? A range by which you can find work in this range. But if you go way too high, then you're not going to get it, right? It's a numbers game. But at least I can find out what that rate is. And that's what works. Because like for example, in the past, in places like the Soviet Union or in China, the prices are opaque. You don't know what they're supposed to be selling at because the government dictates how much it is. And even they don't know how much this is supposed to sell. So you can have this margin of error so much so people exploit that. This is how corruption happens in those countries because like I can sell this high because you got no other choice. You don't know the information.
Yeah,
this is how the arbitrage is being done. So, but the market, the stock market, if you will, or the actual market, they give you that rate. You can find out what that is, the general rate is, and you can, this information you can freely find out very easily. And this is why it works, right? That's just macroeconomic. But what I mean is that humans need access to like transparency. They need information to make decisions. So the moment you start hiding these information, then you can't make decisions. This is where people going to take advantage of the fact that they know something that you don't, right? And they use that to their advantage. And the whole society are just people fighting to access information, right? You have all these insiders and this and that, like they're all trying to do for the best for their best interests. So it is the game, right? Everybody try to do this game and be like, oh, can I find out about some information that other chumps don't know that I can take advantage of, right? That's the whole game. Everybody's playing this, right? So what I'm saying is, but this is the reason why you can even say that the both of us are here in this country and not in our home country. Why?
Yeah, there's
because the system is screwed up over there. They don't give you those information and you can't make those decisions and your life will be worse off because somebody else is taking the vast majority of that resource for themselves because they can manipulate the system.
Too much corruption, like nobody's following any respectable rules, right? Everybody's just trying to bamboozle. Too much bamboozle. And
that's because the rule is not
can't rely on anything.
Because the rule is not being, you know, like the rule sets are totally different for one thing, but they're so designed, they screw the result. They were so leaning toward those who have the power. They gain so much out of the system that they gain all the majority of the resource and everything. So it's
Yeah.
unfair, right? But at least in here in the West, it's like, well, yes, is the system perfect? No. There's always going to be caveats. There's always be some kind of inefficiencies and corruptions and whatever. But at least on the general level, everybody can participate. You can make a little business, you can do something with it, you can earn a living, whatever, right? So you're not, you as an average person, you can actually do participate. You're not being entirely screwed over and being
Yeah.
just written off as just the peasants and just like you can have nothing, right? So if you're wanting to work, you can build something, right? Relative to, you know, there's always going to be big players. There's always going to be somebody who gains way more than the average person because they know something or they know somebody. But at least the system is open enough that most people can participate and not having to, you know, resort to just, oh, because I know somebody's, so I can get that position, you know? That's just how corrupt that system is, where it just like, if you're not born into it, then you're screwed. You can't do anything. You can't run anything without other people going into your business, right? That's why it's a whole like a mafia thing. Like at a certain level, like yeah, they're gonna come knocking just because, hey, where's
Yeah.
our share? You know. So
Yeah. That's
anyway,
why like the power structures, it's a whole separate world, and I don't know if anybody who wants to live in there.
so
Um.
that's what happens with us, right? We just as organisms, as creatures, we're just trying to find the best living situation, the best solution to
Yeah.
our problems, survival, or how, what the environment, right? You find the environment if you can. There are so many people out here in this world, they can't even define their environment. They're just stuck there, right? And you're lucky if you're able to define where you want to live or how you want to, you know, like where you want the environment to be, because
Yeah.
a lot of times you don't have a choice, right? So I guess I'm saying is just, yeah, be grateful that your life, you know what, you know that saying, right? Sometimes this is very impactful for me. It's just like you are living somebody's dream, meaning that, you know, like as bad as you think your life is, that's somebody's dream. Like they want to
Yeah.
be you. Like they're dying to be you. You know, they have such a worse situation than you. That like they dream of this. You complain about this, they're like, dude, I I will kill for that. You know, I will kill to be in your shoes. So there, you can always be worse, right? So
Yeah, so it goes back to being grateful for what you have. It's the solution for most of
your
the
problem,
unhappiness problems. Yeah.
and that is really the zen of it. It's like there is no problem, okay? All these problems, supposedly problems, is you being too, essentially you create them, right? We create our own
Yeah.
problems because none of this can really is any problem. It's only a problem when you consider that to be the case. When your mindset is not there and you think that this is a zero sum game, like, oh, I must solve this issue, blah, blah, blah. For goal oriented activities, sure. Sometimes in your job, yeah, there are problems you have to solve, and it is a problem. By definition, it is a thing preventing you from getting the result that you want. So, yeah, you need to solve it, okay? But, you know, practically speaking, yes. But in terms of the implication of it, yeah, I seen like, yeah, this is why I empathize when you were telling me about the project management job and how bad it can be, and you know, I start seeing, yeah, like that kind of setup is just, it is misery. It is made to make you misery because it's almost like you have these kind of input and it just necessitate that the result is going to be frustration, right? Because it's almost designed to be that, because you're dealing with these things that are you can't even alter the result, and there's it's like you get what you put in, right? You put this in and this is what happens, right? And I recently had a little chat with my accountant. She helped me with my taxes and what have you. So I moved for her as well as favors, and I mean, she
Hmm.
paid me just normal rates and stuff, but I give her a discount. I mean, I did give her a discount, right? Because we help each other and stuff. Yeah. So recently I helped her again with a little thing, and I was just chatting with her. Hey, how's your life? And I was like, oh, too much stuff to do, because it's like what she was saying, how I literally can't go to sleep without all this number in my head, because you have to constantly deal with the client's problem with the taxes and stuff,
Wow.
right? So
Yeah.
literally, and that remind me of you, because I
It's
remember you were
exactly like
saying
that. Yeah.
you can't even go to sleep because your mind just naturally kind of
Yeah,
just
because all
pop
of
up.
this stuff is like as an ongoing situation with lots of these moving parts, and they're inloaded into your short-term memory, right? And it's like it's constantly like you have to deal with it, and you can't just like.
You can't stop it.
And some of it does require you to like some of its stuff is still unsolved, and you're like, well, crap, I do need to solve it, but like you can't be working all of the time, right? So
Yeah.
it's this giant conflict of interest essentially, because they do want to employ your mind 24/7 so you can solve problems for them, but then you do want to have your own personal life somehow, right? So you do have to balance it out somehow.